This week on NWP, they're putting weird chemicals into the mana potions that are turning the Moogles gay! Everyone, and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 158. We cover everything while bearing it all. I am not joined as always by Patrick, who is on a extended sabbatical, apparently. But I am joined as always by Justin.
God damn it, man. I can't even.
Excellent.
I had a thing, but then Gay Moogles just really threw me for a loop, and I think that's the best intro we're gonna get.
Good. We'll get into it in a little bit, but today we're going to be talking about conspiracy theories in games, and my knee-jerk reaction was to put a bunch of Alex Jones drops into the show. But then in light of like recent things, and also because he's a giant piece of shit, I kind of didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, even though it is obviously satire and we're openly mocking him.
Right.
I just don't want to do it. So I decided to do a different tact. And you'll definitely see as we go through this episode. But before we get into all that, Justin.
Yes.
It is time to give away a game.
Oh, shit.
As part of the Great Game Giveaway, which is the thing that we do around these parts.
That is a thing we do here.
Yes. Now, in the giant, in the Mega Buster of Destiny, I have all of the entries from all of the lovely people who liked, retweeted the episodes from Twitter, and also sent in their secret code phrases from the episodes. So what I'm going to do now is reach in to this hallowed Mega Buster.
Oh, man.
It's really just a cookie jar.
Well, it's really nice, so, and it
is really nice.
Yes, I mean, I'm looking at it, so.
Yes.
Great audio content.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
This is exciting. He is pulling a name out right now.
Once again, this contest was for your choice of a copy of either Bloodstained Ritual of the Night or Wolfenstein Youngblood, which maybe you pick the first one from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I've heard not so great things about that Wolfenstein.
Yeah. You know, we aim to give great games away here, but, you know, we don't know until they come out if they are going to be indeed great.
Right.
So
it's tough.
Huzzah! The winner of this Great Game Giveaway is Xavier Krieger.
Oh, good job.
Congratulations, sir. Well deserved. I will DM you the day that the show comes out if you have not messaged us already. And you can let me know what game you want and for what system, and I will make it happen.
All right.
And that just leaves me to announce the next Great Game Giveaway. For this next one, we're going to go with one of my most anticipated games of the year.
Okay.
And then one that I think a lot of people are sleeping on, but is slowly building a lot of groundswell to where I think people are going to be taking notice.
Okay.
Next contest. You will get a choice of either a copy of Control,
okay,
which is the new game from Remedy.
Sounds good.
Or Astral Chain, which is the new game coming out for the Switch from Platinum. So kind of got all your bases covered there.
Right.
Control is going to be on Xbox, PlayStation 4, and PC. And then you got a Switch game in there as well. So we've got you covered with whatever you got.
Hell yeah.
Now, if you're new to the show or new to the contest, the way that you can enter, go over to Twitter and find our show at NWPcast. You can like and retweet the show post, which will be pinned to our profile. And then listen further on into this episode for the secret code phrase, which Justin has responsibility for this episode. And then DM that to us, and that can give you up to 3 entries right there. Do the same thing for the episode after this. And if you do all 6 of those, you get a bonus 7th entry. So good luck to everybody in the Great Game Giveaway.
Indeed.
Yes. And I think that's all the preamble stuff. Haven't gotten any new reviews yet. Haven't actually gotten a review all year, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Oh, man.
Would love to see that change. But with all that being said and done, let's roll on into the stage select.
All right.
And Justin, this stage select is your pick, so why don't you let us know what we're up to this week?
Okay. I wanted to embrace some crazy here. I wanted to know people's favorite video game conspiracies. It was conspiracy theories. And I think people did pretty good. People got a little confused, and I had to kind of set the record straight a little bit on what I was looking for, but I think in the end, this turned out to be pretty good, so...
Yeah, we got fewer submissions overall, but the ones that we got look really good.
Yeah.
This should be a lot of fun.
I think so, too.
Now I just gotta say, before we get into things, ladies and gentlemen, doing this show isn't cheap. We have a lot of mouths to feed. We've got a lot of lights to keep turned on.
Right.
I'm proud to announce that finally Nerds Without Pants is host to a plethora of useful products for your home, your workspace, your car, and also your personal health. We take this very seriously, obviously.
Right.
And, in order to keep the show going, I just need to take a moment before we continue with this topic and just talk about one of our wonderful fine products that we have rolled off the assembly line today, and that is Freedom Slurry.
Oh, yeah.
Now, as you all know, nuclear war is coming. That is a fact.
Absolutely.
It is reported on. You can just Google nuclear war. You will find that.
Yep.
One of these days, we will be having to live in a bunker. When that time comes, you're going to want some Freedom Slurry.
Right.
This is a it's a fully organic. Well, it's not fully organic. It's fully synthetic, based on organic things. I want to make that clear. It has all of the nutrients that the body needs. You can serve it as a warm soup if you like, or if you do not have access to your gas powered griddle or similar device in your bunker,
right?
You can just grab a spoon or even a straw and just ingest that right there. It has everything the body needs.
Right.
One container is a low price of $199.99. US dollars.
That's cheap. That's a deal.
Yeah. And I've got to tell you, I mean, I consume Freedom Slurry on a daily basis.
Right.
It definitely tastes like food.
Right.
Justin.
I mean, and you know the problems I've been having with things not tasting like food, Julian.
Yes.
Yeah.
So ladies and gentlemen, just put good things in your body. Get ready for the coming apocalypse. Freedom Slurry. Get it now at nwp.com.
That's right.
Justin, I'm sorry. Now that we've paid the bills.
Oh, no. That's totally
please.
Fine. So I guess I'll start. So the first one I have here, my first favorite video game conspiracy is, that there's a 17th Colossus in Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, son of a bitch, you took my number one!
Yeah! That's the first one I have. So I almost wanted to let you go first too, and I was like, I guess I'll start. But
so,
yeah.
So there were 17 Colossi. I thought there were 12.
There were 16.
There were 16.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually thought there were 12 too, and I typed in 13th, and then it came out. I was like, no, I know that one. That's not the one I'm thinking of. No. There's 16, and there was a hidden 17th one, and like people went nuts trying to find another Colossus in this game, and it's really interesting, like the lengths people were going to do this. And the top theory for a long time was that there is a door in, I think it's the 11th Colossus, that is bricked off that you couldn't get into, and people thought it was behind there. Somehow they had to get behind there, had to get access to it. There was also a theory that a lot of people don't know this or don't play enough of the game, and I didn't know this because I'm a normal person.
Until this,
until I started looking at this stuff up. But if you play the game long enough, you can get enough grip strength and so on and so forth to climb to the top of the temple and there's like a little like garden up there and stuff. And then there's another like temple deal that people thought you could go over, and that's where the 17th Colossus would be. And then eventually somebody hacked the game and because emulators, yo, and they found out, there's nothing there. It's just a bunch of unfinished architecture and all this other stuff. People went into the game files and tried to find this thing. It's not there. And a lot of it spawned from the artwork that came with the actual thing. Like there was an art book and it had 8 extra colossi. Apparently the guy who designed it actually originally intended for there to be upward of like 60 colossus in it. And then they continuously scaled it down from there until eventually it was 16 and they settled on that, which is a reasonable number for that game, I think. I think the emptiness of that world actually adds to it. And another thing people tried to do that I think is really cool and that I didn't know you could even do in the game is you can actually hop on birds and ride them for a little bit. Like you can grab onto the birds in the sky. There's apparently one specific bird that you don't drag down with your weight and they will fly you around, and people thought there was one in particular or something that you could grab onto and they would fly you to the 17th Colossus. There's also an unfinished dam in the game that's just there, or it's finished. Like it's actually fully decked out and textured and everything, but it's outside of the game world. You have to break things to go find it. So a lot of weird stuff. And then even in the remake, they kind of played into, a lot of the stuff with these like coins that you could find. And people thought that was going to be, hey, they heard us. They're going to put the 17th thing in there and it'll be really cool. And it was just a like magic sword or something. And it was really, people were kind of pissed. So yeah. It's a good look up, yeah.
Yeah, this one, I love it. I completely missed all of the hubbub around it originally.
Right.
I happened to find this video on game trailers about it, cause I have talked about this on the show before, but, not really in depth. And I love the whole idea of cryptids.
Yeah.
I love to believe that there's stuff out there that we don't know what it is yet.
Yep.
Especially with like sea creatures and stuff like that, because we've explored so little of the ocean. And I just like I like the idea of it. Like I know, like logically we've probably seen most of the like fauna, like at least above ground.
Right.
And so a lot of the stuff is probably complete bunk, but I still just like that thought that it could be a thing. And this is totally a video game cryptid.
Yeah, it is.
Which is one of the things that I love about it. And, you know, like you said, Justin, like they had planned for way more colossi than what made it into the game. But one of the things that led so much credence to the idea of there being a 17th Colossus is that there were still nods in the game to, I think, up to 24, because that was the last cutoff before they scaled it back one last time.
Like I said, though there was 8 more in the art book, and those were the like final cuts, were those last 8 where they got rid of it.
But even in the game, like I think there are actually like statues that would have been for those.
Yep, they left a lot of those in there. Yep.
Yeah. And then, like you said, like, you know, there's that dam area. There's other little unfinished areas that if you like break the boundaries of the game, it's just neat to see stuff like that where it's like, it kind of reminds me of, cause I haven't really delved deep into this yet, but I'm starting to get into that whole rabbit hole of, abandoned amusement parks and malls and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it has that type of feel where, you know, this was like imagine like a Disney ride that you didn't know they were working on, and somehow they just never tore it down, and you're at Disney World, and then you just like fall through the door that you shouldn't have fallen through, and then all of a sudden there's like this half-finished ride with like recognizable characters, but like there's nobody there, and like nothing works the way it's supposed to, and it's a little bit dilapidated and stuff. Like that's the feeling I get from this, and I think it's just so cool.
Yeah, and it's funny because like it's almost been proven. And one thing that they did find interesting in the game files that was in the beta version of the game was apparently there's a thing called Eye of the Colossus. And what it is you can, or what it was anyway, is you can play out the battles from the view of the Colossus, but they took that out, which would have been really cool. Like, you could see what they see.
Right.
So they took that one out for obvious reasons. I feel like it would be really hard to play.
Totally unplayable.
Yeah. but still a cool little thing. That was not in there. But there's probably still people like out there looking for this thing, just swearing that it's there.
Oh, sure. Cause actually, I know that there were players who, without hacking, were able to get into that temple that you were talking about by maxing out their grip strength.
Right.
And honestly, like, you know, you had brought up the remake. Honestly, if I had been on that team, I would have said, look, guys,
we got to do this.
Let us put in the 17th Colossus. Like, but we're not going to do it at launch. Like, just let us like work on this, you know, especially in the background. Now. And then like 6 months or a year later, we're just going to like not even talk about it. We're just going to stealthily put this in, let people find it. Honestly, even from like, so I was thinking like, well, business wise, like why would you pay these people to do this thing and then not advertise it? But it would get out, and then think about how many more copies of that game you sell.
Oh yeah.
Cause I wasn't interested in buying that remake because I've bought the HD re-release on the PS3.
Right.
So I feel fine. If I knew that was in there, you better believe I'd buy that remake.
Yeah, exactly. Especially now because you can easily patch things in later, like so where people are like, "Oh, it's not there," and then like everybody's like, "Yeah, it's nothing's there." I think there's so many cool things you can do now that you can easily patch things into games. Like I know GTA played around with stuff like that. With like there was a whole Sasquatch thing, and they just kept messing with people and leading them down this little trail, which was what in my original theories, but kind of got bumped out, where they just kind of kept leading people down this trail that, oh yeah, no, there's nothing really there, but there's totally something there. You should go look at it. And eventually, it paid off in the end. All these people like put all these puzzles together and found the Sasquatch in GTA 5. Yeah, that one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I was going to say, wasn't there like an actual cryptid in one of those games? And
yep. That was the one. You had to go through hell and high water to find it. There was something about like you had to find golden mushrooms, be at certain spots at certain times of day. Like they did so much puzzle solving to get to that point that they earned it. But yeah, that one's pretty interesting. And yeah, like we were saying, if they would have easily patched that in, that would have been really cool. Like just some weird little thing.
And actually, now that you mention about the people should do that now that you can patch stuff, that definitely plays into one of mine.
Yeah.
A little bit later.
Yeah, they should have done that with that newest Ghost Recon game, Wildlands, when they put the Predator in there. I think that would have been the coolest way to introduce that. Like, yeah,
when I heard about that news, I was like, why did you announce this?
Yeah, don't announce
like how cool it would be if like you're just playing that game and then all of a sudden
Predator shows up. Yeah, that'd be great. Like people would have lost their shit, dude. People would have been so into it. Like they got to stop announcing. I know it's probably like a whole thing with the license that, hey, you got to advertise that you have this thing, but still it'd be so neat if they didn't have to.
But honestly, like, just from a marketing standpoint, I think you save on so much marketing money and make so much more if it just becomes this this thing that generates, especially with like Twitch today. I mean, come on. Like,
exactly. Twitch is all the advertising you need for something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you have Ninja all of a sudden getting flayed by the Predator when he didn't even know that was in the game, you can't manufacture that reaction, right? Like that would, oh man. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I definitely played kind of fast and loose with this topic.
As did I.
I had 3, but we've already done my number 1, which I think is the only like true game conspiracy theory that was on mine. But I went ahead and we won't have to go deep into this. I guess we can since Patrick isn't here, but I have one that is just purely a conspiracy theory of my own.
Okay.
That has no basis in fact or reality, which is, I think, what makes a good conspiracy. That's pretty much what they all are.
Yep.
My theory, and stop me if you've heard this one from me, because I know you totally have, is that Tetsuya Nomura is responsible for all of the batshit ideas that come out of Square Enix to this day. that dude who was just started off as like a monster designer and then became a character designer, acquired so much power within the ranks of Square and later on Square Enix that he now dictates how things are done. And that's how you get crap like these stupid stupid names and these stupid spin-offs that nobody asked for. No, hey, guys, nobody asked for this really dumb Final Fantasy fighting game that's more complicated than most role-playing games. Nobody asked for that. Nobody wanted that. Nobody needed that, guys. And they definitely didn't need it. They definitely didn't need it to be called Dissidia.
Yeah.
With Final Fantasy as the subtitle.
Yeah. Dissidia. Yeah, it's weird. I have heard this one before. It's funny you mentioned that.
Probably on this very show.
Yes, and I probably was on it when I heard it.
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
yeah, probably. But yeah, no, that guy's a weird guy, dude. Like
I know like logically, I should not blame everything bad from Square Enix on him, but I do.
Yeah.
Like also, Katase. Like even though Katase is responsible for some of the best Final Fantasies, I think those two putting their heads together is why you get comments about how they wanted Final Fantasy 13 to be like a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
And crap like that. And like there was a few years ago where I think this is back when I was still reporting news at Pixelbit, which thank goodness I don't do that anymore. I hate reporting video game news. But when they were talking about what they saw internally as what a Final Fantasy game was, like it was all just completely superficial stuff.
Right.
It was like Gorgeous Beauty was one of them, and Magic was one of them, and there was like a couple other things, really nothing that actually said, like if you were describing a Final Fantasy game, maybe you would put Gorgeous Beauty, because like those games all look fantastic, but none of the other ones would be things that you would like say, this is what right. Final Fantasy is. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I kind of got into this, but a while back on the first stage select I had, and we will not go into that again.
No, we will, because as a casual observer of Kingdom Hearts who enjoyed the first game, what is with all the dudes in the black cloaks? That is just lazy.
Well,
that is just lazy design, Justin.
That's okay, you heard it here first. I didn't say anything. I didn't have anything to do with it. But it's funny you mentioned Katase, because I think he might come up later. I think.
Oh, that's good.
There's at least one Final Fantasy man that's going to come up later, and I can't remember his name right now. So one of
the Sid Highwind.
Yeah.
No.
Cecil.
Oh, what is his last name? I forget his last name because he didn't say it until like it wasn't something that was used in the game. Anyway, Cecil.
Okay.
Final Fantasy man Cecil.
Oh, no. No, like a guy who made Final Fantasy or was on the teams that made a lot of the Final Fantasies. He will come up at some point. But, I want to counter your batshit weird theory that has no basis with one of my own. And that's that I think Nintendo.
Is that really a counter?
What?
That's more of like a.
I don't know.
It's like us both doing scissors at the same time in rock, paper, scissors.
Okay, well, I want to add to your
okay,
your craziness.
Don't scissor me, please.
Okay, I won't. I'll try not to. Sounds really weird. Okay. But I think Nintendo hates Metroid, and they want everybody else to start hating it too, because they're tired of making those games. Like, I actively think they don't like Metroid anymore. Like, but it's weird that this one has no basis at all. So
no,
yeah.
like honestly, what you're saying right now has a lot of merit.
Yeah,
like I can totally get with this.
They pawned Metroid off to who was it? Capcom that made the other M, and that
was Team Ninja.
Okay. Even worse. Even worse. You could not have picked a worse team to handle Samus. Oh god. No, that's so bad. That would have been
to their credit, you don't see her boobs jiggle in that game.
Yeah, if they would have got a sequel though, Julian, come on, man. Thank God. But yeah, it almost felt like they're trying to kill the fucking franchise off with that one. And then you didn't get another Metroid game for a long time. And now like Here's where this theory goes off the rails, right? So they recently canceled this last Metroid game, and they gave it back to Retro. Now, not a lot of people that made those original Metroid Prime series are still at Retro. It's pretty much a whole different squad over there, so who knows how that's going to turn out. But
they've been making Donkey Kong platformers for like over a decade at this point.
And Yeah.
who knows what that game would look like?
Exactly. We don't know until it comes out. But like, what if the game that they shit canned was actually really good and Nintendo seen it and said, "Oh my God, it's actually really good and really unique. We can't let this come out. We have to cancel this right now. No, give it to Retro. They'll think we're doing a really good thing." See, it has no basis. But it's great.
Literally, like you're saying that, but everything you're saying makes sense because they're like, we weren't able to kill it with Metroid Federation Force. That didn't do the job. Like, because other than them, that was the first attempt. Yeah. And there's still people who liked that game.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, no, we'll just do this other thing that doesn't even deserve to have the Metroid name. That didn't do it. It just made people hungrier.
Yep.
No, but literally, like, I jest, but there is historical basis for what you're saying.
I know.
Metroid was never a hit in Japan.
Exactly.
And as such, Nintendo has never really cared for it as a series.
Right.
And I think it's not just that. Like, I want to say that I know for a fact that Punch-Out was another one of those games that was a huge hit in America, not a hit in Japan at all.
Right.
And I want to say maybe Kid Icarus was the same way. And so then what you have is Nintendo finally is like, all right, fine, fanboys, here's your game.
Yeah.
Right? You get Metroid Other M, you get Punch-Out for the Wii, and you get that Kid Icarus game for the 3DS. And they're like, now shut your mouths.
Yeah.
And we don't want to hear about it again.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, those games don't sell up to the standards of other Nintendo games.
So
then
now
they
have an excuse like, hey, you guys didn't buy this.
Exactly.
And everybody's like, yeah, but because they were bad games, not because we hate the franchise.
Well, Punch-Out on the Wii is really good.
I never played it, so I can't. I didn't have a Wii, so
yeah. You didn't really miss.
I know I didn't.
I mean, there's some fantastic games on there. Don't get me wrong.
Oh
and
yeah.
Honestly, of my current slate of systems, I find myself pulled to my Wii collection more recently, just because I've bought like some of those quirkier, fun games. I just haven't actually looked it up because there's so many cables.
All right, one more quick hit before I hand it back over because I got a little bit. All right, so I mentioned this a little bit on Twitter, the ways to resurrect Ares, whatever. But my favorite one was always the 136 soldier theory, where the theory was that if you collected 36 out of 36, it was 136 scale. But me as a kid, I didn't know that. So I thought this was 1 out of 36. So if you collected 36 of them and you took them to the Calm Traveler, he'd give you an item. And you take that item, you give it to the sick guy in Midgar, and that guy leads you on a whole quest line, and then you get to resurrect Aerith. And I believed that shit super hard and went and tried to do it for days. Guess what? It doesn't work. Don't ever try that. It's not an actual thing. The 136 soldier is actually an item that you can use in battle to hurt enemies. It's like a combat item. But
well, I think that I had heard somewhere that it was supposed to have been part of a thing that just they didn't finish it.
Right.
So, there was supposed to be a use for them.
Yeah.
And then I guess apparently if you buy the house in Costa del Sol, you can display them there.
Oh.
But even so, you can't get them all.
Right. No, there's only a few. And like I said, it's 136 scale, I'm pretty sure, but I could be wrong.
No, I think you're right. But I think that there were, something in there was supposed to be, that there were going to be multiple ones that you could collect, but they're not even all in the game.
Yeah, they're really, the ones that are there are really hard to find. Like, they are so obscure, like, you have to click weird spots to get them. That's why people thought this was a thing, and, myself included, I went on tireless searches to find these stupid things. But it's not a thing. You can't bring back the dead. Can't do it.
I will say, just to shout out, no one can know about this again. I loved the fact that the sick guy in Wall Market, or no, sorry, not the sick guy. They got the digestive medicine and they didn't know what to do with it, and they kept thinking that they needed to give it to the sick guy in the black Sephiroth cloak. And they keep talking about it hours later, well, what are we going to do with this digestive? And it's like, guys, that ship sails.
No, you're done. Yeah. Oh.
I've only got one other one, Justin.
Okay.
And this one, like, it's funny because actually, like, a lot of the listeners put this, and I was surprised because I felt this was going to be like a me talking as, you know, the older person in the room type of thing. But I freaking loved Mortal Kombat in the arcades with all of the, like, rumors and conspiracies and bullshit that revolved around them. Now, like, Mortal Kombat 1 was, like, don't get me wrong, it was a big deal.
Right.
But as far as, like, secrets go, you had Reptile, and then later on, I know EGM printed that Ermac thing.
Yeah.
Which I never knew if that was like an April Fool's thing or if that was literally a glitch in the game, but there wasn't actually Ermac in the game.
Yeah, EGM is responsible for a lot of video game conspiracies being printed with their April Fool's stuff. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, they got me twice with Shenlong because they did it the first time, and then they did it again for Street Fighter 3, and I fell for it again.
Yep.
I think the rumor was that Ermac was actually like Error Machine, and so there was an actual glitch in the game. But anyway, so I think that, like, the Midway guys decided to lean into that really hard come Mortal Kombat 2. And the weird thing about Mortal Kombat 2 is that, and I don't know if this has ever been done before, but there were different revisions of the Mortal Kombat 2 board that would be released with, like, new features added. So, like, I think originally, like, everybody only had one fatality. And so eventually those got added later.
Right.
And I will never forget this. There was a convenience store across the street from my middle school that had a Mortal Kombat 2 machine that we would go and play after school. And they got one of the revisions where, 'cause I don't know if you remember Sub-Zero's second fatality where he does the deep freeze.
Oh yeah.
Like he does that really long extended freeze and then he shatters them.
Yep.
Well, in this version of the game, you could do the deep freeze, you could do the motion for the fatality.
Yeah.
And he would do that move, but you could do it during combat. And so if you hit them with that move, they were frozen until the time ran out.
Oh, wow.
And so you could just literally beat anybody if you could just make sure that you hit them and they didn't jump over it. And that was like the weirdest, coolest thing.
That is cool.
But you know, so things like that started to perpetuate like all of these rumors and things. And so you started having people say like, oh, well, I heard that, like, you know, there's a move where Katana takes her top off, or there's an animality in the game. I saw it.
The one I always used to think was a real thing was that you could hit a guy into the mouth of one of the trees in the living forest.
Yes. I remember that one. Yes.
That was one I always was like, no, you gotta be able to do it. They wouldn't put these trees there if you couldn't do it. Like,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And, you know, and again, like, there were so many weird things in that game. Like, you know, there was that stage where you have, Sonya and Kano, like, trapped in chains. And so there were rumors that, like, you could play as Sonya or Kano and, you know, all of this stuff. And just the rumor started to build. And then you had people at school telling you they saw Sub-Zero turn into a polar bear. And then he, like, pulled the guts out of their partner. But you didn't see that, Michael Taylor. That was just a bold-faced lie, you son of a bitch. Okay, folks, I'm sorry. I would like to keep talking to you about Mortal Kombat, but before we do that, again, very expensive show to produce.
It is.
I have 15 kids.
That's a lot.
Justin
That's a lot
has
of kids.
13 cats.
Yes. Sure.
We have all these lights. We have so many lights to keep on, and like literally, like we're just one step away from this whole enterprise shutting down.
Right.
Now, I want to talk to the men in the audience right now because, I mean, I know we have a lot of ladies in the audience because this is one of the, you know, sexiest video game podcasts on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
But guys, I would just want to talk to you right now. Because as you know, it is a proven fact that the government is pumping estrogen into the food sources to sterilize you and turn you more docile and destroy your ability to procreate in order to create an easy to control population.
Right.
You can look that up.
Yep.
Just Google.
You
will find it.
You know the problems I've been having with procreation, Julian. I mean,
yes. Well, that's a completely separate thing. That's more about you being a complete shut-in and having anime statues.
Okay.
I'm talking about actual men that have a chance of getting laid.
Okay.
Now, gentlemen, we do have a product that will help you with that. It is a natural Well, not natural. It's synthetic, but based on natural goods. It is called Man Up. It is a capsule. It is a very large capsule, but you can take it with water, or you can take it with your Freedom Slurry if you so choose.
Right.
Man Ups will increase your potency by 83%. It will make your sperm incredibly large and fast, ensuring that you can impregnate any female that you may want to impregnate. In order for you to spread your seed across the earth and create a race of super strong, virile men that believe in freedom. So, again, go to nwpcast.com and, you can find Man Ups there for the low price of $89.99 per pill.
Right.
And, okay. So
it's good.
Now that we got that out of the way, I'm glad that we were able to pay some bills.
Yeah.
I will just say, just to close on Mortal Kombat a little bit. The other really cool thing about the stuff that came out of Mortal Kombat 2 specifically is that then they were listening. And so there's definitely stuff that was just rumors from Mortal Kombat 2 that ended up becoming actual fact in Mortal Kombat 3, like the Sub-Zero polar bear fatality or animalities as a whole, which was really neat. And so then that just kind of perpetuated it. But I really feel that Mortal Kombat 3 was the last gasp of that, because I feel that once 4 and beyond came, the mystery around the games kind of lessened. And like you were saying earlier, Justin, like, it'd be really neat today, now we have data miners and stuff like that, so it's really hard to stealth release stuff. But man, wouldn't it be neat if you could recapture some of that mystery really cool. with, like, the console games. And I'm not talking about, like, the way they do, like, the crypt. Like, that stuff is just kind of a little bit annoying.
Right.
I mean, like, actual, like, what if there is, like, you know, this character you've never heard of that just randomly appears in a background somewhere.
Yeah.
That nobody knows what they are, and then you can't play as the character. You know, like, maybe you get a chance to fight the character, but, like, they don't release it as a, like, it's not a thing that you can buy. Right? Like, it's just, like, this mystery in the game. And, like, go back to, like, when you would fight Reptile in Mortal Kombat 1. That stuff is neat.
I miss having those, like, really, really hidden things that you had to work to find and, like, solve the puzzle to even get to and all that stuff. Like, and it's like you said, it's so hard with data mining and all that stuff now. We can just go into a game and, like, oh yeah, this is in the game. Like, but patches are something I don't think we fully explored. Like, I think that'd be the best way to do it, is like, no, and then after all the data miners get all their stuff out of the way, then you go, okay, well, we fixed all this stuff, and then there's some other minor changes, but those minor changes are just, like, you know, whole secret characters that we added that are in the game that people will find maybe a year or so from now or whatever. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Like obviously we don't know how programming works and stuff like that, but it would be neat if you could put, like, dummy code in there to, like, throw them off the scent or something like that.
Right.
Or like you almost, like, assemble the character in the background, like, over time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It'd be
like,
tough.
There's neat stuff that could possibly be done with that, just like, just on the down low.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to find it because people find everything. And again, not necessarily in order to, like, make money on, like, microtransactions or anything, or like a DLC thing, like, just be a thing where it's like, we're going to get so much buzz around this.
Right.
That people are going to pick up the game just to see it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before we get any corrections, Ermac is Air Macro. I remembered that as you were talking.
Oh, okay. I think in EGM it said Error Machine.
Yeah.
And that's where I've always remembered that from. But I remember that it was corrected later on. But that EGM article said Error Machine.
Yep. And then I guess it's on me now. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I've got nothing.
All right.
That's
cool.
all
I got a pretty good amount here. But the main gist of it is that Squall is dead in Final Fantasy VIII is one of my favorite fan theories, conspiracy theories of all time. I love this stupid little theory.
This is a thing that I had not heard until I listened to Square Roots.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this.
So where it stems from, for those of you guys who have never played Final Fantasy VIII, is there's a scene where the main character, Squall, who is Leon in Kingdom Hearts for some reason, I'm not making fun of it, I'm just saying that's what his name is, and he's injured. He gets a big ice thing thrown through him by a person, and it looks like it hurts a lot. So the thing is, the theory is, after that happens, he dies. And then from that point on, what you're playing is his dream. And it actually is pretty interesting because the rest of the game goes kind of off the rails from there. There's like, all of a sudden, like, let's see, it just turns into a big power fantasy kind of thing where, so Renoa, when you meet her, she's the main love interest. She's on the box. She's the blue girl. That's how I'll describe her. She's like not really into your character at all. She's actually more into Cypher, whatever that, however.
I always said Cypher.
Cypher. Okay. We'll go with that. I like that. But she's more into him. And in fact, she's even claims that she's like in love with the guy. Like, she like spent a whole summer with him. She's only 16, 17 because everybody's like teenagers in this game. She's very into him, and Squall's like doing all this stuff. Like, if I died, nobody would care. It wouldn't matter. And he's really depressing. And then this happens, and suddenly the game just takes a turn, and there's all these other little plot twists, such as one involving an orphanage that I won't go into just in case somebody hasn't played the game before.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to be picking this up.
And I'm trying to kind of dance around some of the spoilery stuff here. But it gets really weird, and if you go through the game thinking this, some of the stuff makes sense, and what it really boils down to is the ending cutscene, and I won't spoil anything here because it's not, but most of the scenes in the ending cutscene are actually from the time before he gets hit with the ice pick, which is really weird. And then there's a whole thing where like, his face just like disappears in the cutscene, and there's all this other little stuff. And then there's a final thing, which has been theorized that Squall is now in heaven. And that's what you're looking at, because there's all of a sudden there's all these characters and they're having a really good time, so on and so forth. There's a lot of little dialogue things here and there. And, I mentioned Kitase earlier, Julian, and, he comes up here. So, in an interview with Jason Schreier, Yoshinori Kitase responded when asked about this very theory. And here is what he said. No, it is not true, Kitase said, laughing. I think he was actually stabbed around the shoulder area, so he was not dead. But that is a very interesting idea. So if we ever do make a remake of Final Fantasy VIII, I might go along with that story in mind. What are you fucking hiding, Kitase? What are you hiding? You know something that we don't know, and you won't tell us.
No, I'll tell you what Kitase knows. And it's not even what he knows. It is that he has George Lucas syndrome, where he keeps wanting to revisit his past accomplishments and then fuck it up.
Yeah,
by changing things. No, this is true, because I don't know if you heard about this. They have said that they would like to possibly add voice acting into this remaster of Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh, that'd be
like
weird.
They are making it more than just them prettying up the graphics. And I know, I just want to play the game on a modern console, guys.
Yeah.
That's all. Otherwise, I can just like hook up my PlayStation and play it, with shitty graphics. But I don't want to do that. But I'll do it if you force me to. And it sounds like that's what you're going to force me to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can play a remake knowing that it's a full-on remake,
right?
And try to parse that. There are like a lot of there will be a lot of come to Jesus moments for me with Final Fantasy VII Remake where I'm like, okay, this is not Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
I need to brace for that.
Oh, I'm going to be the same way. So
yeah. But, when you tell me that you're just like doing an HD remaster of Final Fantasy VIII, what that tells me is it's going to be a prettier version of Final Fantasy VIII that runs on my new console and also has achievements. I don't need anything more than that, guys.
Right.
So stop right there. Just stop making extra work for your poor staff.
Yeah. I've been wanting to play Final Fantasy VIII for a long time now. I think I have it on the Vita. And I just haven't really gotten around to it yet, but it is
one of my least favorite Final Fantasy games, but it is the number one Final Fantasy game that I want to revisit.
Yeah, it's been
because
so
I feel
long.
that I played it wrong.
Yeah, I know I played it wrong the first time, and I know I beat it, like I beat the shit out of it the second time, because I went and grinded everybody up to level 99 and did just about everything there was to do in the game, but it's been so long, and I remember getting to the end and being like, I'm a little indifferent towards it, but now I kind of want to like go back in and see like if it holds up at all or like what people hate about it. I don't know. It's the one I'm most interested in for some reason. Like, there's some sort of air around it where I'm like, maybe it is good, but I just don't remember. And like maybe going into it thinking the way I think now, I'll see it in a different light. Cause there's a lot of stuff I revisited that I played as a teenager that I didn't fully understand or grasp. So that's one I've been wanting to do that with. Oh, and also from this interview, Julian, you'll be interested to know that I learned, there's a theory that Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X are in the same game world. Have you ever heard that?
Well, have you heard the theory that all of the Final Fantasies are in the same world, and you can like basically you look at the world maps and you see that it's sort of like the tectonic plates shifting?
Yeah.
Have you like where basically there was like a calamity and then like that hit the middle of the continent, and they've slowly been spreading out over time over the games, and it's like, guys, like it's Hyrule Historia all over again. Like stop trying to connect things what not meant to be connected.
Yeah, this one's a little bit weirder because this is just Final Fantasy 7 and 10, and the I guess apparently there's a guy named Shinra in 10-2, and they Schreier asked him if that was the guy who went on to make the Shinra company in Final Fantasy 7, and he was like, well, it was made by this one guy, so maybe he did intend that to be the case. I don't actually know. And they're like, all right, well, that's confirmed now. I was like, all right, it's not really, but it's digging a little too deep.
That's why I can't stand that stuff, especially when like these guys try to cause here's the thing that I've learned about Japanese developers is that once they're done with the game, they don't think about it anymore. That's also why they don't archive their stuff, because once they're done, they have moved on. So that's, so then you have like people will ask Miyamoto the stupidest shit about Mario lore. And it's like, Miyamoto doesn't have any Mario lore. He didn't make any Mario lore. So he'll just go along with whatever you say. And then they're like, oh my God, Mario's last name is Mario. And it's like, no, it's like, he just said that to get you off his back.
Yeah. He wants you to go away.
Yeah. It's like, you know why there's a character named Shinra in Final Fantasy X too? Because it's a reference to an older Final Fantasy game. They do that shit all the time.
Yeah. So then after that, the last thing I have.
Big money! Big prizes! I love it!
Oh, wait, shit, hold on. The Smash TV guys here.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, sorry, we gotta, alright, what is it, man? Okay, it's not a lake, it's an ocean.
Yes, folks, that is the secret code phrase for this episode. Now bear with me, because this one is a little bit of a stretch. It's not a lake, it's an ocean, is the final line of dialogue, in Alan Wake, which is, not Remedy's most recent game, but it is my favorite Remedy game.
Oh. Okay.
And Remedy is making Control, which is one of the games that you can buy, one of the games that you can win in this month's Great Game Giveaway. So if you take the threads and pin them together on your conspiracy theory wall, it all makes sense. It's all right there. It's all connected. It's right in front of you.
Yep.
And so yes, once again, it's not a lake. It's an ocean.
Yep. And Control looks really cool.
Yeah, Control looks really
it looks really neat.
That one, like, I've been trying to buy fewer games, he says, after buying $100 special edition of Fire Emblem. But like, I do plan on buying Control at or around launch, because I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yep.
So thank you, Justin.
Oh,
get out of here,
get out, man! Don't
go.
Don't break anything, please. I will press charges.
Good luck. You'll need it.
So the last thing I have, this is a very special thing that I'm doing here. All right, I have this thing. It's called Conspiradama, the 7 Mysteries of Pantasawa. All right.
Oh no. Oh.
So these are just questions that I'm throwing up into the void. All right. Okay. And they don't need to be answered. Some of them might be answerable. I don't know. I'm just throwing them out there. I want people to think before we go to
asking questions. We're just
exactly before we go to listener comments.
Wake up, sheeple.
Exactly. All right. So why are all birds in games just Earth birds, even when the game is taking place on a fantasy world? Are birds the link between all game worlds? Also, are birds secretly camera drones? That's an actual conspiracy theory that people have, that birds are not real and they are all camera drones.
That's not, no, stop it. That's not a thing.
That is actually a thing. People really do think that. I'm not kidding. Look at it. Don't even look it up. You'll just you'll hate everything. It's, the next one. Okay. If Kingdom Hearts is light, then is the sun Kingdom Hearts? And will there be a time when light switches become Kingdom Hearts switches? Just want to know. Just throwing it out there. Next question I have. Next mystery of whatever I deemed this, I can't remember already. If Princess Peach is she secretly the bad guy in every Mario game? All right, she always gets kidnapped. She never gets hurt. She always has Bowser send all her guys out there. I'm just thinking, I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe Mario's the bad guy. Maybe he's an asshole and we don't know. We don't know what he's like behind the scenes. Okay.
Maybe Princess Peach getting kidnapped is just a false flag.
That's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, I don't trust his mustache. The only mustache I trust is Burt Reynolds. That's it. It's the only one I trust.
Fire flowers don't melt steel bars.
That's right. Goddamn right. Now, the next one I have here, bear with me on this one, all right? If you rearrange the letters in Electronic Arts, you get Trone Leonic Star. Coincidence? Yeah, you think about that. FIFA money probably going to a mothership somewhere, that's all I'm saying. Aliens in the sky. Okay, next question I have. Does Mega Man come back as the same Mega Man when he explodes and dies? Or are there multiple Mega Men in Dr. Light's bunker and they're sent in after one of them dies? So basically, was Mega Man the first one to pull a Nier? That's all. I'm just throwing that out there. I want to know. Next question I have. Is Alucard aware that his name is Dracula backwards, or is that just an awkward coincidence?
It's only revealed when he looks in the mirror, but he's a vampire, so he doesn't see a reflection.
Okay, that makes sense. Last one, and certainly not least. Why will Chun-Li not give a last name? What or who is she hiding from?
Oh, I think the listeners know who she's hiding from, Justin.
Is Chun-Li even her real name? I demand answers, Julian. I demand them. And that's all I got. Thank you for your time and listening. And just,
You're welcome.
think that out if you're out there listening to this.
I mean, hey, we're just asking questions.
Just asking questions. That's all we're doing.
Just asking questions. Yeah. Not questions, but we have answers to this stage select question from our lovely listeners. We'll move on to pixelbit.com first, but before we do that, again, just really broke-ass podcast. We're barely hanging on by a thread here. And so we do have another product, especially you got to protect yourself from all manner of invasion and intrusion into your thoughts. As everybody knows, social media companies do employ mind reading technology. It's why whenever you think about something, you immediately see an ad for it on Facebook or in your email or on Amazon, because they are employing mind reading devices in all technology. This is a fact. You can Google it. You will find it. To that end, Nerds Without Pants is happy to announce that we have a weapon well, it's a piece of armor to protect you from this insidious practice. It is the NWP reflector helmet.
Right.
Now this is a helmet that enshrouds your entire head and face.
Right.
It is silver and looks just like Optimus Prime's face. Well, not exactly like Optimus Prime, because if it looked exactly like Optimus Prime, we would get sued. It looks like it would be Optimus Prom for legal reasons. But this reflector helmet will protect you from not only all mind invasion techniques, but also as SPF 1000.
Oh.
So it will protect you from all manners of skin cancer.
Right. You know the problems I've been having with skin cancer recently, Julian.
I do, yes. You're very pasty.
Right.
Also bald.
Yes.
So this will also help to cover your terrible bald head.
Yes.
And protect you, as I said, from the sun's terrible radiation rays, as well as mind control devices and mind reading devices. And you can get one over at nwpcast.com for the low price of $9,999 US dollars.
We're practically giving those away. I mean,
practically giving them away.
Yeah.
We're really selling them pretty much at cost.
Right.
Again, we're just eking by very, very slightly here. Just barely keeping the lights on.
Right.
So many lights, both in the studio and in our bunkers, where we ingest lots and lots of freedom slurry.
Right.
So get yours today. Protect yourselves, from everything. Xrian is the first up over at, pixelbit.com. He's actually got 4 here, cause we didn't really specify. We'll go through these a little quickly, but, he says, number 4, getting to Chrono Trigger's map in Chrono Cross. He says, anyone who is familiar with Chrono Cross may recall a waterfall on the northwest of the map. The current prevents you from ever getting your boat through, but conspiracies around the internet claimed it was possible, and doing so would lead you to the main island in Chrono Trigger. I still have my PS2 running with a rubber band holding the analog stick against the waterfall. One day.
Man, how is this PlayStation 2 still running?
Well, I feel that, I don't remember that there was a rumor that you could actually get to the Chrono Trigger map, but I do remember reading somewhere that basically, because it was supposed to be in the same world as Chrono Trigger, but you were playing the game wondering, well, there's none of the locations from Chrono Trigger, and that waterfall was, it was said that, and I don't know if this was supposed to be canon or not, but yeah, basically this was a whole other continent that was kind of divided from the rest of the world in Chrono Trigger. Sort of like in Lord of the Rings, where you have when they go out west,
right?
And they don't really, at the end of the movie and Return of the King, they're like, oh, we're gonna go out, and there's apparently a whole other world out there that nobody's been to or whatever. It's kind of that type of situation.
Yeah, I remember
think.
that. Okay, yeah, interesting.
His next one is one that I've done a little bit of research into, because it's interesting, but
yeah.
Well, he says the indoctrination theory in Mass Effect. This one blew my mind back when I watched the video on it. The idea that Shepard had been indoctrinated by the Reapers for most of the series was insane. I don't recall specifics, but if you're interested, you can watch a video on YouTube. Yeah, this is basically just like a long-winded way of people trying to concoct a better ending for themselves than what was in Mass Effect 3. Again, I never had a problem with the ending of Mass Effect 3.
Right.
Other than the fact that the original vanilla ending didn't give you a lot of closure with your crew, but then the updated ending did. But again, I got most of that in the hours leading up to the final battle. I don't know, I was satisfied with, where my Shepard was at and everything like that.
Yeah.
My only real big complaint about the ending of Mass Effect 3 is that the crucible that you've been working the whole game to build, that stuff doesn't matter.
Right.
I think the other stuff you've done in the rest of the series does matter. But it doesn't feel like the suicide mission at the end of Mass Effect 2, where literally, you could see the game kind of clicking, it would start to chug, where it's wait, we need to calculate what you did here
I remember
to determine
that.
who lives or dies right now.
I played that a lot of times to.
Yeah, that stuff was really cool, and I wish there had been a payoff like that at the very end of Mass Effect 3. But other than that,
right?
I didn't have any problems with it.
Well, this theory is pretty interesting, though. I did actually take his advice and watch a YouTube video on it. So, it basically boils down to it's only Mass Effect 3 from what I gathered. And that the theory is, just to explain it to people, is Shepard gets indoctrinated at the very beginning of Mass Effect 3 because the Reapers can do this via sound wave. and the whole thing behind it is the Reapers wouldn't really need to actually talk to each other because they're robots, so they would just communicate through like ones and zeros and such. And that they make sounds though, and those sounds are actually the things that indoctrinate. And the video I watched actually like calculated the decibels, and it was some sort of wavelength that actually causes. You ever heard of those like sounds where like it actually causes you to get like tense and fearful? Like they use them in horror movies.
Infrasound.
Yeah, infrasound. Yeah. That's exactly what this is. The Reapers, that the sound they make actually has that same level of stuff. So, and that's what they use to indoctrinate. And that's the whole theory here. And then, it basically boils around the kid that you meet in the beginning and how he, basically all the dreams that you have in 3. I found it pretty fascinating. I'm not sure how, true it is or how intended it was, but it was interesting. So, if you're out there and you're kind of into this conspiracy theory stuff, check it out sometime. It's something to think about at least. As
far as game conspiracy theories go, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm not going to fault it for just being like a theory. I think where I fault it is where people were basically saying like, well, this is how it should have ended, or this is how I have to basically be okay with the ending of Mass Effect 3.
I think that's where I think people were like, well, that can't be it. We have to dig a little deeper. There has to be something we missed here. So, and that's kind of where it started. So,
yeah. Xfrian's next one is Polybius. He says, no talk of video game conspiracies can be spoken without mentioning Polybius. The rumor was that this game was developed by the government to test players and brainwash them, or maybe not. I can't recall because it's a mystery. Now, Polybius is another thing that I had not heard of really until I started like on YouTube and also listening to like paranormal related podcasts and stuff like that, like Astonishing Legends and stuff. I don't know. Like, it's weird because like I've spent so much time around video games and everything like that.
Right.
But like, I guess maybe it's because I didn't spend a lot of time on the internet.
Yeah.
Early on. And so maybe that's where this comes. I mean, that would have to be where this comes from.
Yeah, probably.
But as it goes, like, it's supposed to have been like a, early 80s era, like arcade machine that, was supposed, like, almost like Last Starfighter, but by the government type thing.
Sort of.
And I think there's also versions of the story where it actually would like kill you if you played it, or like wipe your mind.
There's a lot of theories that like, oh yeah, there would be Men in Black that came and like monitored the machine and did adjustments to it and all this stuff and got the data.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's fun. It's fun to think about, but I actually like a lot of like the newer, like weird indie games that have spawned from this idea. Like Pony Island was one of those games that actually kind of takes that idea, like of a game being more than just a stupid game and actually like having a whole thing where it does I don't know. Pony Island's fucking nuts. That game's weird.
I haven't played that, and but I think another one, and which I also haven't played, but I think is in the same vein, is that like Frog Fractions.
Yes.
Right, where it starts off and you think it's just this very basic game, and then it very quickly turns into something completely
exactly
different.
Yeah, it's basically the same type of thing. Yeah, the Hex is a game I played that was made by the Pony Island people, and that game was weird as shit. It was really cool, but not quite the same as Pony Island, but definitely interesting.
Yeah. Xfrian's number 1 is whatever the fuck actually goes on at Rockstar Games. Out of everything I could know regarding games, it has to be the truth behind Rockstar. I've heard some say it's a cult. Many other podcasts, and Giant Bomb in particular, seems very hush about it and doesn't want to spread rumors. Even those rumors are generally a mystery. What the hell is going on there? Julian, you seem more in the know than I do. What are you hiding?
What are you hiding, Julian?
I have heard stuff from people who work at Rockstar, and also just like interviews and stuff like that. And so the sense that I've gotten is that, yes, they work them really hard. Yes, there's a lot of overtime. And yes, there is a little bit of a cult of personality around the company in the sense that it's not that you're forced to work long hours or, be on call, but it'd be real great if you did.
Yeah, that's
type of thing.
Always the vibe. That's a lot of video game companies. So
yeah. And I think also if the Housers are in town, then
that's
you
the
better.
One I've heard is
you all hands on deck type of thing. Now, here's the thing is that I don't mind working long hours, and especially if I'm passionate about something.
Right.
Yeah, you can, like, if I believe in what I'm doing, yeah, you can work me to the bone.
Right.
And I think a lot of people who work in video games are that way. Now the thing where I definitely take umbrage with it, especially when you have like people with families or people with emergencies or people who need to go to the doctor and stuff like that. Like that stuff, like it needs to be definitely an opt-in type of thing, like a voluntary, cause you know, me, like if I was working on video games and like I was like, if I stay 4 more hours today, I can get this thing done and I want to get this thing done.
Right.
I'll stay the 4 hours and get the thing done. If you tell me to stay the 4 hours, it's going to be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
but there will be plenty of times where I'm going to be like, no, I'm just going to stay until I finish this.
Right.
However long that may take. And I think a lot of people are passionate about that. The problem, I think, again, it's a total outsider. The problem that I see is where the companies start to capitalize on that. Like it was very telling, Justin, that like around the time when a lot of this stuff was coming out, or after MK11 came out, there was someone who was talking about how they worked on Mortal Kombat 9, and they were talking about just how shitty it was. And it was like this long Twitter thread that they made about the horrible conditions of overtime and stuff. The very first comment was someone saying, well, if I had the chance to work making video games at a company like NetherRealm, like I would gladly work the overtime. And then people were like, that's exactly the fucking problem. They're preying on people like you. Yeah. And they know that like if someone like this person who made the thread, you know, speaks up or leaves, there's 100 people right behind him that'll take his place.
Exactly. People in that industry need some sort of protection, whether it be a union, I'm in a union. And like, I know basically like, I still work overtime and stuff, but it's all, and like, I have to work it sometimes, but there's still like protections against me working too much because, or whatever, like there's a limit on what I have to do. So that's kind of what they need. Basically what it would do is just put basic protections in there. Like, hey, they can do this to you, and you can't really do much, but you know, going into it, I don't know. It basically puts a contract in place so that people can go, okay, these are our set of rules. You have to abide by these, and it makes sure that the company abides by those. And then you get into like contractors and all this other stuff. It becomes really complicated, but I think that's a place that they need to start. And that's exactly like you said, like that's a big problem is it's a big industry where people want to get into it. But yet you have these older people that have been there forever and they need protecting as much as the next guy. Like it has to be equal to some degree. Like people have to get paid for their work. And that's another thing. Like some people are working themselves to death and not getting paid for it and that's all. I don't know either. I'm an outsider. I don't know really what's going on. I'm just, looking in from the outside. So I don't know fully exactly what's going on in that industry, but I can tell you that like, that's where you'd probably have to start because, and like the worst one that I can think of, it was Telltale. Telltale was miserable when that went down. Yeah. That one was like, oh, these poor people. Like, cause that went down and they have no protections. Like, okay, where I work, like, and I have a union, if our entire company goes down, I get paid like a severance and stuff like that because of the contract we have with our company. They didn't have any of that. So they were basically, and there's like stories of, hey, I just moved here from whatever town. I have nothing. And this place just closed down. I basically dropped everything to move to this job. Now that was one of the most insidious things about that is the fact that like upper management knew what was going on and they were still hiring. Exactly. Like that one was real bad. And like, and I don't know like how, like a union could have at least like, hey, now they're getting sued and cause you breached this contract and so on and so forth. Possibly. I don't know how all that works exactly, but I mean, it's tough, man. That's where they got to start, though. That industry really needs to do that. I did not see this conspiracy theory going into unionization and video games talk, so I was not prepared for this.
I saw a good Tumblr post today that said, like, you can wait, guys. It's just a video game. Like, you can wait a few months for it to come out. And it's like, yeah, like there's so much stuff to play now. There was a time back in the day where it's like, no, this is the game that everybody is waiting for this year.
Yeah.
Right? But that is so not the case anymore. So,
there's so many releases all the time that's not a thing. Like, we don't need to crunch people to death. And it's like you said, if you're passionate about a thing and you want to do that, that's totally fine. I think that's totally cool. If you want the extra money for there's a lot of people that just work like that, and God bless them, man. I'm not one of them.
Yeah. I'm single with no kids. I will take the overtime.
A lot of people will. But for those people that want that sort of thing, they should be able to get it. But for the people that have families and don't want to make that just every part of their day. And there's stories of the NBA 2K developers and stuff sleeping there and so on and so forth. There's a lot of nightmare stories about working in video games that I've heard.
Which honestly, I remember reading stories about that a long time ago in magazines about people sleeping at the office. And I was like, that's so awesome. I was like, that, I want, I just thought that's the coolest sounding thing.
It sounds cool now. And then you think about people that had to do that and had to be away from their kids or whatever. And it's that would really suck for them though.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. We should move on. Justin, why don't you take San Andreas over at Pixelbit?
All right. San Andreas says, number 1, the Atari landfill in New Mexico, which in fact turned out to be true after years of speculation. Yeah, it did turn out to be true. I loved the documentary about that, but I can't remember what it was called.
Game Over, The Rise and Fall of Atari.
That was it. Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, that is a fantastic documentary. Actually, I've seen it twice, and it got me emotional both times when the programmer of E.T. is talking to the cameras after they find it. Yeah, that stuff was really neat.
Yeah.
And I also, having worked in the landfill industry for almost a decade, I cannot believe that they found it.
Yeah. That was shocking to me too.
Yeah, the way that landfills work, pretty much once something is, even if you get something dumped that day, kiss it goodbye.
Yeah, it's gone.
Now I understand the way they were able to do it, but even so, that was a amazing feat. That they not only got in the ballpark, but then actually found the strata.
Right.
Holy crap, that was amazing.
It's really cool. So if you've never seen that before and you're listening, go check that out. It's really good.
Absolutely.
Number 2, all the various Mortal Kombat conspiracies that floated around primitive online message boards and game magazine letter sections in the series' early years, such as Noob Saibot and Ermac, as well as theories on how to play as Sonya and Kano in MK2. Ed Boon and John Tobias ended up bringing most of those to life, since Mortal Kombat is one of the most fan feedback driven game series out there. And we touched on that.
We already went into that. It'll come up a couple more times. Indeed. But there's some really cool things in there. I have a story, but I told myself that I wouldn't tell it on this show simply because I had submitted it to the Arcade Memories podcast, and I wanted to kind of give him an exclusive.
Right.
So I will let you guys know when that episode comes out, because he actually just released episode 4 last week. It doesn't come out very often. Basically, he has to get up a bunch of stories and then compile them.
Right.
But when that episode airs where I tell that story, I'll let you guys know. I mean, you should definitely be subscribing to it already. Like I said, it's an irregularly updating podcast, but it's really cool. But I'll definitely mention it when my segment comes on. Cause it's a pretty interesting story that I've never told on Nerds Without Pants.
That sounds good. I want to check that out now.
Yeah.
Number 3, he says, product shortages of Nintendo products such as the Wii, Switch, or the NES and Super NES classics. And early on, the DRAM shortage of 1988, which a lot of people later speculated was Nintendo's way of drumming up extra demand for Zelda 2. Made-up shortages are a running theme with regards to Nintendo as a way to inflate demand through perceived scarcity. Honestly, I'm not sure that they're all that off base because Nintendo is proud of the fact that its products hold their value for years instead of ending up in the bargain bin for $20 within 6 months. Yeah.
So I definitely have things to say on this one.
Yeah.
As far as recent hardware shortages, especially with like the Wii and the Switch, I pretty much call bullshit, because Nintendo was basically, if Nintendo was holding back product at that time, they were kind of cutting off potential sales. Because when you have the systems constantly selling out, even before like demand reached a fever pitch,
yeah.
especially with like pre-order culture now, you know what you can sell before it comes out. I think in both of those cases, and also especially with the NES and Super Nintendo classics, they were, okay, there are two things. I don't think that the Wii they were prepared for.
Yeah.
They weren't prepared for the Wii.
The Wii took off like, yeah, they did not see that one coming, I don't think.
Cause you got to remember where Nintendo was situated in the market at that time.
Oh.
They had been the underdogs for a while at that point. Now the Switch, I think they braced for a little bit better, and yeah, it was hard to find initially, but it was pretty easy to find a Switch not too long after launch. So I think that was definitely a situation where they were a little cautious because of how the Wii U did, but they were able to definitely get enough into the pipeline to where even like by that holiday season, you could get a Switch if you wanted a Switch. Now, I will say that the classic systems, they were far too conservative on that, because I think Nintendo they don't value their legacy in the way that we do. Like they're very protective of it, but at the same time, they don't really seem to think that it's going to sell a lot.
Right.
Which is why they didn't really put like a lot of like muscle behind the virtual console, which really could have sold systems if it had been fully implemented. And I think they really didn't think that these little classic systems were really going to do much. And then it was like, oh shit, like these are actually really popular.
Yeah.
And, they were caught with their pants down. What I can tell you as someone who worked in the video game industry in the retail, and this comes from my boss, Ben, who, he worked with distributors and stuff like that. As far as games and stuff go, Nintendo would have this, tendency to release, I believe, like 60% of the print run into the chamber and then hold on to that other 40%, let things sell out, hold it even a little bit longer, and then release that other 40% while they also had another print coming in, another wave after that. So the Zelda 2 thing is probably that one I can do 50-50.
Yeah.
Like that might have been them not really knowing what was going on, but I honestly think at that point in history, they knew what they were doing. And that was probably the first time they did that. I would say like definitely like N64 cartridges.
Oh, same those
thing.
Were real hard to find. I remember.
And actually the Nintendo 64 system, they might have done that with as well.
Yeah.
I don't believe they did that with the Wii. I don't believe they did that with the Switch, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did that for the N64. And especially like Ocarina of Time. I still call it Zelda 64.
Yeah.
But that was like the first situation where people were saying like, you better pre-order this.
Yeah. I remember that.
Because that was never a thing.
Yep. I remember getting told that when I was a kid. And I didn't do it. And somehow my parents still found that somewhere. Hell if I know how they did it.
I stood in line in front of a Best Buy the morning that it came out and was able to get 2 copies of it, but those were for the store. Yeah. And I didn't get one for myself, and then Ben was nice enough to sell one to me, like, I think the next day or something like that.
I got mine for Christmas, and then it wasn't Final Fantasy VII, so I didn't like it.
Exactly.
But the Switch one, and I could be real wrong on this, I keep thinking there was some sort of chip thing with that one. There was some sort of like thing that it ran off of that was a big thing, and I keep thinking Apple ran off the same thing, and there was like some sort of shortage on that exact chip, and that's why they were.
Which one were you talking about?
I think the Switch. It was either that.
Yes.
And that's why they initially were running dry on those, because they knew they needed to make more, because they're for a while you couldn't find them or whatever, but they couldn't get the chip in because there was just some sort of manufacturing thing with it. I don't remember exactly how that went, but I remember there.
No, yeah, you've got the right of it.
Yeah.
It is, cause there was a shortage of that across the board. So there was actually for a little bit, it wasn't very long, but for a little bit there, like certain, like other pieces of tech that use that same chip were a little bit hard to come by.
It was some sort of phone that also was, I want to keep thinking it was an iPhone, but I can't remember exactly.
And I will say, like, if you know, as we move into the next generation, like, if anybody is thinking, oh, I may want to get a system, you should probably go ahead and pre-order that just from the jump. And then if you decide not to, then you can cancel it later, because on top of a possible like shortage with like chipsets and stuff like that, not to get political, but like the tariff thing could potentially put a big wrinkle into the next generation of hardware coming out. So keep that in mind. It might
be getting pretty expensive here pretty soon. So
yeah.
Yep.
We'll move on. Jamie Alston only has one conspiracy theory. It's actually the one we just talked about, but I do want to read his comment because I think it's entertaining, but then we'll just go ahead and move on because I think we've already covered it. But he says, what's the deal with all these shortages with new Nintendo hardware? Well, personally, I can't say I knew about it back in the Zelda 2 days. I've definitely noticed this phenomenon in years recent, especially with the NES and Super NES Classic Editions, as well as the Switch. They kept feeding us the excuse, oh, we had no idea people were interested in little old us. Are you actually saying that more than 100 people across the US want this ridiculously easy to manufacture mini console? We're having so much trouble meeting that unprecedented demand. I sure hope nobody snatches up every pre-order batch and resells them for 2 or 3 times the price on eBay. That would be a real shame. This was total BS, and I'm still mad about it, even though I do have those consoles now. It's the supply and demand game Nintendo's playing with that really grinds my gears. I just hate to see scalpers benefit from it, and we honest paying customers get stuck between a rock and a hard place every time. Conspiracy! Conspiracy, I say! Just real quick, I will say that, like, but there's no Nintendo doing that, like, that doesn't benefit them.
Right.
Like people, like scalpers selling a bunch of systems for like 3 times the price does no benefit to Nintendo. So that's where the whole, like, that conspiracy breaks down for me.
If anything, it hurts them because now it's just like, oh, they're selling this for way overpriced, or that's the only way I can get this stupid thing. And then.
Right. And it basically, it becomes like a bad PR.
Yeah, exactly.
Show for them. All right. Well, Justin, why don't you take Super Step?
All right. Let me find it here. All right. Super Step says, what do cool spot sunglasses do? What do they do?
He's just asking questions.
He's just asking questions. I mean,
yeah.
I have a theory that cool spot sunglasses are not actually sunglasses and that they may be his eyes. Have you ever seen Cool Spot's eyes?
I have not.
All right. Well, if you take the sunglasses off, he may go blind. Or maybe he can just throw his eyes anywhere and he can see those places. So, yeah.
Or if you pull the sunglasses off, you reveal a black hole that will suck you into nothingness.
That could be too. I mean, we're just asking questions. We're just asking questions.
Just asking questions.
His number 2 is actually interesting. Are the Yakuza games partially funded by actual Yakuza?
I'm gonna say yes, because I know Sega was in a real bad spot there for a really long time, and then all of a sudden they're able to afford to translate all these games that they couldn't afford to translate before. I know the games are also starting to sell, but they weren't selling initially, like before Yakuza 0. So yeah, this holds water for me. Also, Super Sep, I know you'll be of interest in this. I believe it was a Giant Bombcast episode it was an E3 episode. They had one of the localizers from Sega who works on the Yakuza games, and they were just on the round table. And one of the things that they said is that they're still behind and they're still working, which tells me, Joe, that we're probably getting, well, my fingers are crossed that we're getting that samurai version of Yakuza, and that's the thing they're working on.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the only Yakuza games that they haven't translated. If they're still behind, that's the only thing I can think of that's left.
Right.
So, but at the very least, they're still working on stuff from the Yakuza team.
Yeah.
So
another interesting thing is, the Yakuza, like, people are really afraid of them in Japan. So if they were making these games and the Yakuza weren't, like, okay with it, they would probably not make any more of these games.
That's very true.
So much so, like, the best example I can ever think of, and this is a wrestling thing, I'm really sorry, but it is a true story. There is a wrestler named Yoshihiro Tajiri who famously was asked to do a Yakuza gimmick in WWE, and he would not do it because, and his reasoning was, I have to go back to Japan at some point. You guys don't. And I have to deal with this. So I can't do that. Like, you don't understand, like, what it's like to do that. And I was like, that's scary. So if they weren't okay with those games or, you know, behind them in some way, they would probably stop making those games. Then his number 3, were some EGM April Fool's pranks just things they saw in review copies that never made it into the final games? Not an April Fool, but I still remember renting an NCAA game specifically to see some goalposts get torn down, only to have them say in the next month's issue that this was something they took out of the final game. So, EGM, yeah, they were behind a lot of these video game conspiracies with their April Fool's shit. Like, the most famous one that I can remember from when I was reading EGM was the Lara Croft nude code. Like, that was the big one that I remember.
That wasn't EGM.
Wasn't?
I believe that was Game Players.
You might be right.
I could be wrong, but I don't think EGM
you might be right.
That.
Because I read that one too. Now that I think about it, I definitely read that one too.
Because EGM was, I think, the first game magazine to do April Fools, but once they did it, everybody started doing it. To the point that GamePro actually had like a whole 20-page section in their April issue called Lame Pro.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like, fake articles.
Which was exactly as it was said. It was pretty lame. But
EGM's was better because you had to find what it was. Yeah. And I want to say that one of them was an April Fool's joke, but then ended up being, it wasn't quite the same, but it ended up being true, which was the Sega Neptune.
Yeah.
Which was supposed to be, I think, a Genesis 32X and Sega CD all in one unit.
Yeah.
And, like, they did that as an April Fool's joke, but then I believe it turned out that that was real, or maybe that's what everybody thought was April Fool's joke that year, and it wasn't.
Right.
My memory is fuzzy on that. I probably have the issue.
Right.
But I remember there being a lot of confusion around that.
But yeah, God, Game Players, I forgot all about that magazine. Yeah, that was the other one that I read.
Game Players that was an atrocious magazine.
I bet it was. I know I read it though, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember, that was probably where the Lara Croft nude code thing was. I remember it being a big deal, at least in that publication it was, so.
Yeah. Bookie came in again at the clutch.
That's what he does.
So I will take this one. It's our last stage select pick on Pixelbid. Then we got a couple on Twitter. He says, I pretty much already answered this one last week, but I'll try to think of a couple. Oh, I remember the Find the Triforce and Ocarina of Time rumor. Years later, I thought it was funny that, in fact, there was a connection between getting the Triforce and Ocarina of Time in the 1996 Space World beta trailer. And he has a link to that. You can find that yourself. He says, and speaking of Zelda, in A Link to the Past, if you fall when battling Ganon at the end of the game, you plummet to the edges of a room underneath, which has a pit that's barred off. For me, growing up, there was that kid that swore up and down you could fall into it, and it'd lead to some secret or another. That kid also claimed his father was the famous local weatherman. He wasn't, which I guess was an odd flex. That, to me, that's similar to, like, my uncle.
I was just gonna say that kid's uncle probably worked at Nintendo as well, so.
Yeah. He says, oh, and I have one to share in A Link to the Past that happened to me and totally sounds like a lie. See, our family found the Chris Houlihan room years before it was popularized. Well, not the room exactly, but due to a physical problem that impacted our Super Nintendo, it probably got knocked and tilted, but at the time it was attributed to a recent lightning storm. One time we talked to the guard near Link's house in the south at the start, and he started going through and almost every bit of text in the game. Among the weird ones was, my name is Chris Houlihan. This is my top secret room. Keep it between us, okay? One of us even called Nintendo Power and was told they had better chances of winning the lottery than that ever happening. If I remember correctly, they seemed to know about it, but were confused about how we triggered it. For years, I tried to recreate it and wondered what weird secret Link to the Past had, but it never happened again, of course. Much later, I found out about the Chris Houlihan failsafe room, and finally, at least, that part made sense. I did not know anything about that. That is news to me, Bookie.
Yeah, that's...
I've never heard of that.
The secret room thing?
Yeah, I've never heard of that. I knew about the secret room in Final Fantasy IV. And then there's the one in Chrono Trigger when you beat the game, I think in under 20 minutes. But I did not know about that.
Yeah,
Link to the Past
that one is one of gaming's like last secrets or whatever. Yeah, people found that one in pretty late in the day. Like it took a long time for people to come across that one. And
oh, okay, I see. I didn't know that either. That's sort of like, because I think just like 2 years ago there was some sort of secret code from Mortal Kombat 1, like the arcade machine that like was just discovered like 20 something years later. And it was like the final secret of Mortal Kombat. And I was like, wow, that is amazing.
Yeah. And I, to put it out there, I totally believe him because that's too specific of a thing to just make up for a comment on a podcast.
Yeah.
So I believe you, Bookie. I really do. Like, I have your back on this.
Especially because it's you and you wrote that.
I wish I was that cool to know all that stuff.
Well, Justin, why don't we go over to Twitter and you can take this first one from Xavier Krieger, new winner of the Great Game Giveaway.
All right. Xavier says, I don't know many, but my favorite conspiracy theory is in gaming is that Pokemon actually takes place at the end of a large-scale global war. The trainers who send their winnings back home are all children or very young. Cops and nurses are all female. And most men you encounter are criminally minded. Team Rocket. Another large clue is in Vermilion City Gym. Is in the Vermilion City Gym leader, Lieutenant Surge, a clearly damaged veteran. Right before you battle Surge, he states, "You won't live long in combat, and my electric Pokemon saved me during the war," alluding both to a past conflict and possibly a current war Ash may be forced to participate in. So that's dark.
That's really dark. And when I first saw it, I was like, there's no way that would be a thing. There's no way that the developers of Pokemon thought that hard about the backstory of Pokemon.
Right.
But then I started to think about Japan and like how it would have been growing up.
Right.
In like after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs.
Yeah.
And then that starts to make more sense because, that's the whole reason Metal Gear exists is because, Kojima grew up in the aftermath of that and it was always on his mind. So I could totally see like some people who were like, I think Pokemon is so far, well, no, it's not that far past that. That's right around in the same room. So yeah, if there were some older people on the team working on that game, hell yeah, I can totally see that being a driving factor that obviously isn't like an overt thing.
Yeah, they're not going to come out
there's like this.
Yeah, bash
like,
your head in with
maybe their village, like it was mostly women, and there was just like a couple older guys who were like war vets, and that's what they knew, and they put that into the game.
I hope at some point Pokemon stops selling like a zillion copies, and that they actually just fully focus, like they reboot the entire franchise around that idea. Like I think that'd be really cool. Like it'd be interesting at least. Like but
you want that version of Pokemon that's like that last Advance Wars where it gets really dark.
I want edgelord Pokemon is what I want. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, next up on Twitter we have Red Venom at Zakelli7, who has a couple that we've covered before and then a new one. So I'll gloss over the other ones and I'll leave the new one for last. All right. He says, all the lore about the MK arcade cabinets, the hidden special moves, secret characters that might or might not exist, special stages that need special round win conditions to begin. Toasty! Nowadays, everything is online or immediately debunked, and I miss those playground rumors from that kid whose uncle works at Nintendo. I never knew anybody who said their uncle worked at Nintendo, but it has become such a thing that I think it's right there with like porn in the woods.
Yeah, basically.
Where it's like it's just this universal thing.
Yes.
He says the Polybius, the arcade cabinet that came from hell, or the CIA. Found out about this one late in life from a YouTube channel called Ahoy and their Retro Ahoy series. A video game arcade cabinet that at best caused migraines or an epileptic episode, and at worst brain scrambles you. Real intriguing, this one. I'm glad I'm not the only one who came to that really late.
I did too. This is one I didn't know about till like maybe a few years ago, and then
okay. I wonder if it's actually just a few years ago type of thing.
It might be.
I wonder if it's like this thing where people like, maybe that's part of the conspiracy is that they're saying that it goes all the way back to the 80s, but the actual conspiracy itself is from like 2006.
I mean, there's a whole creepypasta thing going on where people think video game cartridges are haunted or whatever. And
Yeah.
You know.
Let's see, but the one that Zakelli, that Red Venom talks about, that I want to talk about a little bit more in depth is the Super Nintendo Station. He says, I never knew that the Sony PlayStation came into existence because Big N betrayed Sony on what should have been a disc N64, but with Super Nintendo retro capability, or compatibility. That's what you get, Nintendo. Keep wiping those tears with $100 bills, you traitor. Now,
yeah.
So things may have changed in the wording since then.
Right.
The way that I always heard it back in the day, and then past that, was that it was going to be the Nintendo PlayStation.
Yes, that's the way I've always heard it, and I keep thinking they even found one. Like, they found a working one. Yes.
Like about a year ago or so.
It's very recent.
So it was going to be like the next generation Nintendo system, but I think it did have a cartridge slot for Super Nintendo games. And the fun thing about that is that Nintendo Power, which was like, we're talking conspiracy theories here. Nintendo Power was just Nintendo propaganda, that was sold to us. One of the things that was great is that when they were talking about the Nintendo PlayStation, they did this big splash article, multi-page about the future of CD-ROM technology. And then when that fell through, all of a sudden, the core focus of Nintendo Power was to talk about how wonderful cartridges were and how terrible CD-ROM technology was. And I was like, wait, what? It was sort of like that moment in 1984 where they're talking about how China is the enemy and they're riling up the crowd. And then in the same speech, China is our ally. and it was literally that type of thing. And that's kind of when, like, like my eyes were opened, so to speak. It's like, wait, what? This doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I believe that Sony then went to Sega and was also shot down.
That I didn't know.
And then just kind of struck out on their own.
Yeah, and that's how Final Fantasy VII left Nintendo, because Final Fantasy was always a Nintendo-based, like, franchise for the most part, and then because they made this huge game called Final Fantasy VII, they made this giant game that would not fit on a cartridge, and Nintendo backed out and went to cartridges. Now they're stuck with this game that they can't fit on their fucking new platform that they need to fit it on. So they went to Sony or whatever.
I mean, so they weren't already, they didn't make it and then couldn't fit on the cartridge. It was when they heard that Nintendo was doing cartridge, they were like, well, we don't want to work on cartridge anymore.
Right.
Not for what we want to do.
That makes sense.
Now, have you ever seen the footage of the Final Fantasy, tech demo for the Nintendo 64 hardware?
That I have not.
Oh man, it's so cool.
Is it really?
It's, I actually like the art style better than Final Fantasy VII. So they use Final Fantasy VI characters. I believe I think it's Locke, Shadow, and Terra.
Okay.
And I think Celis might be in there too. I think they were still going with 4 party members. But they're fully polygonal, but they're chibi.
Okay.
So they look more like what a traditional Final Fantasy character looks like. And I believe they're fighting something, and I think that they summon Bahamut at one point.
Okay.
But it's really neat. I remember drooling over the screenshots of it. It was like, here's Final Fantasy 64.
Huh.
And then, well, actually, I don't think that it would have even said 64 yet, because I think it was still Project Reality at this point. So I think it was just Final Fantasy for the next Nintendo system.
Right.
And it looked so amazing. And then years later, I saw it's like a very small, very artifacted video of it. But I was like, I still like this better than Final Fantasy VII.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really cool. I did not know that. I learned something new today. I'm glad I did.
Check out, listeners should check out the site Unseen64. They're great for canceled projects and stuff like that. I'm sure you'll be able to find all of the stuff available.
I think I've heard that name before. Yeah.
Yeah. Unseen64 is really cool.
I think I've seen the canceled Resident Evil 4 with the Hookman or whatever. That one was really cool.
Yeah, that one was going to be weird because that one was going to to be like supernatural.
It was so cool looking. Like, I was like, why did they make this game? Oh.
They actually, honestly, they should revisit that concept and just make it into not a Resident Evil game, but just make a new franchise with that idea.
I think it'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Justin. Well, lastly on Twitter, we have one from Jeff S. on Twitter @Jestoff.
All right, Jeff says, you know what game series is rife with conspiracies? Pikmin. Is it? Okay. Oh yeah, there are tons of theories. Okay, there he goes. And unanswered questions to fill them. Firstly, the Pikmin planet, it's Earth. That's why there's those product placements in Pikmin 2, as well as natural fruit in 3, and even the existence of oxygen as confirmed in Pikmin 1. Yep, it's Earth. Secondly, Louis, your companion in Pikmin 2, is actually trying to kill you at the end of the game. Oh yeah, Louis seems to take control of a giant bug creature and attempt to kill you on the final dungeon floor. Third and last, the water wraith from Pikmin 2 is actually the Gulix in Pikmin 1, and the Plasm Wraith in Pikmin 3. It has an interest in Olimar ever since seeing him in 1. Fighting him in 1 and 2, and finally capturing him in 3. Supposedly, it's based off of a Uminozu from Japanese legend, who likes to take captains, of course, and drown them. And what is Olimar? A captain. Bam! Case closed. He went very deep on that, and
he did.
I
just thought it was obvious that Pikmin took place on Earth.
I don't know enough about Pikmin, so Pikmin is often a game that, for some reason, and this is the dumbest confusion ever, I get it mixed up with Viva Pinata for some reason.
That's real weird.
And I'm pretty sure I'll blame Polybius. That's, it probably did something to my brain at some point. I didn't have one of our, protective helmets, so. No, I don't know why. I do not know why, honestly. I keep thinking they, may have came out at the same time or something, but and then I have to remember that it's a separate game. It's a really dumb thing that I have.
That was a good stage select, Justin. I honestly didn't think we had very much, and then here we are at almost 2 hours.
That's how we operate, apparently.
Yes, it's just a long show. It's just a long show, everybody.
It is.
I'm sorry, Daft Man. It's just how we are.
Yep.
I guess with Patrick being out, it's up to me to come up with a stage select for next episode. And, so here we go. I want to know about your nemesis. I want to peek into your rogue gallery, if you will.
Okay.
Batman has a rogues gallery. Flash has a rogues gallery. He actually has enemies that call themselves the Rogues. Spider-Man has his rogues gallery.
Right.
Who is in your video game rogues gallery?
Okay.
Who are those enemies in video games that dog you to this day? That's what I want to know. I'll leave it open-ended, top 3, whatever, just whatever comes to mind. That's
gotcha.
what I want to know. We'll leave it, fluid. Listeners seem to like giving 3s. So,
3 is a good number. It is a good number.
Yeah. So I will want that by 8:30 Central Time on August 21st. That is the next time we will be recording. So please get those in over at pixelbit.com in the show thread for episode 158, or you can hit us up on Twitter at NWPcast. And it's always open, but we don't really get much traction on it. But you can also go to facebook.com/Nerds Without Pants podcast. And if you post something there, I will remember to put it on here. I'll make myself a note because it's such a rare, it's a never happening occurrence. So I'll be sure to, hold on. Wait, did I forget one? Hold on. I'm very sorry. I forgot Blaine Faya, and I wanted to highlight him in this simply because, he had a very nice comment. He said he congratulated me for pronouncing his name correctly.
Yes.
But also says that he just started listening to podcasts about a year ago and found us when he looked up video game podcasts. I don't know how that works unless he lives in Portugal.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, how would we be one of the first podcasts that pops up? But he also says that we're one of his favorites, especially because we give him belly laughs. And I'm going to attribute that to you and Patrick, Justin, because as everybody knows, I'm not funny at all.
I don't ever consider myself funny. So
you're pretty funny.
Okay, all right, I appreciate it.
But thank you, Blaine. And also I did want to say Xtreme had a lovely comment about last episode that I wanted to say on the show here. I was going to type something, but I wanted to really say it here on the show from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciated it. I wasn't trying to bring everybody down, but I just wanted, to let people know what's going on, especially because like I knew that I wasn't going to be interacting with the show immediately after that episode dropped.
Right.
So yeah, but thank you.
Yeah,
X-Reen. I really
dude,
appreciate it.
X-Reen's the coolest. I love that guy.
Yeah. But Blaine Faya does have a stage select pick, and I wanted to get this before we move on, and then we'll wrap this up since I've already said what we're going to do.
Okay.
He says, I've only got one that has been explained to me as I've gotten older. My friends and I had no fucking idea how in the hell Doom kept showing up on old computers. For our stupid young brains, it made no sense that no matter whose computer we went on, no matter at whose house we were at, there it was. We were grateful, obviously, but man, we couldn't wrap our heads around it. This was before you could just hop in the internet for answers. Obviously, we did get it explained to us, but man, what a wild ride that was for young Blano. And yes, and if listeners don't know, if they're a little younger, the reason that everybody had it on their computers is because it was at the advent of shareware, and so everybody had episode 1 of Doom because you could get it for free. You could literally go into an electronics boutique and just grab, it was free. You just grab the disc.
Okay.
From like by the cash register, and you could play the first episode of Doom, and then when you got to the end, it would ask you to purchase Doom.
That makes sense.
For the longest time, I had not played any more of Doom other than the first episode because I was like, oh, this is good. I'm fine with this. But yeah.
I remember seeing Doom for the first time at my cousin's house, and it blew my mind at the time. It was so cool. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, glad we remembered to get that one in there. Thank you, Blaine.
Indeed.
I don't know why I missed that, but anyway, that's gonna do it for this stage select. So we will roll on into Consumption Junction.
So finally, we're all in agreement about what's going on with the adults. Millhouse? Okay, here's what we've got. The Rand Corporation, in conjunction with the Saucer People, thank you, under the supervision of the Reverse Vampires, are forcing our parents to go to bed early in a fiendish plot to eliminate the meal of dinner. We're through the looking glass here, people.
And I know, Justin, that you really only have one thing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I really only have one thing to talk about as far as games go, but I didn't want to talk about that. I have some shit to say.
Okay.
So there are times when I say things on the show because I think it's going to be funny, or I'll exaggerate things for comedy reasons, or because it plays in to my podcast persona, which is basically just me dialed up to 13 like a good wrestling persona.
Right.
Which means that, yes, I am actually even more boring than this in real life. But I want to make it clear that what I'm about to say is not me trolling. It's not me, like, exaggerating. It's not me, like, trying to, like, rile people up. This is truly what I believe. And that is that the Nintendo Switch is a fucking garbage console. It was a mistake. It fails at everything that it attempts to do. Now, the reason that I was playing my Switch since the last episode is that Fire Emblem Three Houses came out. Mm-hmm. I had actually snagged a second run of the collector's edition from Target, so I had to wait a little bit for it to come in.
Right.
It ended up coming in earlier than I thought. I thought I was going to get it like a week late, but I ended up getting it like the Monday after release. So that, not bad. I was very excited.
Right.
Fire up my Switch for the first time since last December, and Switch no worky.
Oof.
And I was like, well, uh-oh. And I was like, well, okay, so this might just be like a bad power outlet. You know, I haven't tested all my outlets in my apartment. I haven't been here very long.
Right.
Try another outlet. No worky. Like, all right, well, you know, I was thinking about playing this one docked anyway. And so I went ahead and unboxed the dock from my Nintendo Switch box because I never use it, because why would I?
Right.
Hooked it up to the game room TV, which is a 42-inch screen. Because as I said before, I think the Switch looks terrible on my 65-inch display. Plug it into there. Switch no worky. And I'm like, well, it's either the Switch itself or it's the AC adapter. I guess I'll go to Best Buy tomorrow and buy an AC adapter and hope that it's just the AC adapter.
Right.
So I go to Best Buy the next day. I buy a new AC adapter. Not cheap, mind you, because...
Oh, no, they're not.
Well, and I'm also big about not using third-party stuff whenever possible.
Oh, yeah.
So I bought a Nintendo brand AC. Get it home. Take out the new AC. Switch no worky. I was like, okay, well, I guess my Switch doesn't work, even though I've only played it for probably a total of like 40 hours or less.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Because I really only played Mario Odyssey and a handful of other things on it.
Right.
I was pissed, but I was like, well, I guess I'm going to eBay all of my games because I'm not buying another one of these things.
Yeah.
And then I texted my friend Joe, who he worked with me at Game Fellows, and he reminded me that there is this trick to resetting the AC adapter for the N64. And he was like, see if there's something for that. And I looked it up, and sure enough, there is a way to reset the Switch, which I have never had a console that if you don't use it for a long period of time, it just doesn't work until you do this like hard reset of it. Like even like the Game Boy Advance or the DS, like I can just like, it doesn't have a charge right now, but I can plug it into the wall with my AC adapter and it'll fire up right now.
Right.
The Switch does not.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, okay. So, whatever. The Switch was already fully charged at this point because it had been, like, docked all night.
Yeah.
Because it was getting power, even though it didn't indicate that it was getting power.
Yeah.
So, when I finally, like, figured out what to do and reset it, popped in 3 houses, and I was like, cool, full battery charge, I'm gonna play some fucking Fire Emblem, finally. I play it for 2 hours, Justin.
Yep.
Before it runs out of battery.
Yep.
And I was like, that is ridiculous. How is this only lasting for 2 hours in portable mode? I was like, well, I have the dock set up, so let me go and dock it, and I'll just play that way. Joy-Cons are running out of juice, too.
Yep.
And keep it, I do have a Pro Controller. I got it as a gift, but I don't know where it is right now. It's still packed up somewhere.
Okay.
So all I had was my Joy-Cons. And so I got to play it for like another hour before the Joy-Cons ran out of juice.
That sounds right.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
It's a terrible portable because that is atrocious battery life. And what I did is I went ahead and turned off the rumble because as I said from the beginning, I don't think the thing needed rumble, and that was probably adding a lot of the cost to the system.
Right.
And that seems to have made it a little bit better as far as the Joy-Cons go.
Yeah.
But it looks like garbage, even on this 42-inch screen. I tweaked the TV settings as best I could.
Yeah.
But like, the colors looked really washed out. It just doesn't look good. When I play it in portable mode, and we'll get into it a little bit, but I don't know how you're reading the text in this game because it is microscopic.
Oh, I'm playing on my TV. I've been playing Fire Emblem docked.
Even on the TV, the text is pretty tiny.
Well, there's voice acting in Fire Emblem, so I haven't had too much of a problem with it so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, honestly, and again, this is not me being hyperbolic or anything. I think the Wii U succeeds better at what it sets out to do than what the Switch sets out to do. And you know, people keep going on about bring it to the Switch, bring everything to the Switch. And then they start saying, well, what happened to this game on the Switch? Why doesn't it run well? It's because the Switch is a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It is not a good console. It is not like, even compared to last generation, like, I don't, like, here's the thing is that, like, so, like, Mortal Kombat 11, right? We talked about that. I think that you could get a scaled down version of Mortal Kombat 11 to run on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3.
Probably.
The Switch can barely handle that.
Right.
There's old games on the Switch that it can barely handle. Like, Saints Row the Third, I think, doesn't actually run that well on the Switch.
I don't doubt it.
That's a last generation game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, the concept of, like, oh, just all of this stuff on this Switch, on the system that I can take with me, or I can play on the system. It's a cool concept. It fails in execution on every level to me.
Right.
And someone was like, oh, well, I'm glad you, like, when I got it working, they were like, oh, well, I'm glad you didn't have to go out and buy a new Switch. And I was like, no, honestly, I had come to the point where I was just going to get rid of my games and move on because, like, I don't have time for this.
I
like,
wouldn't have blamed you either. Yeah.
I've barely used it. And, you know, like, yeah, I'm looking forward to Zelda Link's Awakening. And yeah, I'm stoked to play a new Fire Emblem game, but I can live without those.
Right.
And just wait for whenever Nintendo decides to finally make something good. And it's been a very long time since they've done that, other than like the DS and the 3DS.
Yeah.
I would say the GameCube was the last like really high quality product that they released that was a console.
Right.
God damn. And the thing is that like, hey, I get that you guys love your Switch. You know, like I think in a lot of situations it works really well, but it's okay to criticize it. Like, I feel like people talk about it like it is like the greatest thing that's ever been invented. It's like, this thing has problems.
Yeah.
And if y'all aren't seeing those problems, I don't know what to tell you.
It's weird. Nintendo has always banked on being that weird, like, concept console kind of thing. Like, ever since the Wii took off, they just...
Oh, even before that. I mean, honestly,
the N64 was kind of a weird, like, look at our kooky joystick in the middle of our fucking controller, which is...
Yeah. The only time that Nintendo has ever been ahead of the curve was the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Every other time they have purposefully hamstrung themselves with older technology. And I understand, like, they profit off that greatly.
Right.
I mean, the Game Boy was created with like a crappy processor and a black and white screen on purpose because it gave them the best battery life and it was cheap to produce. And hey, it did way better than the Game Gear. So like it gets results, but just don't tell me that it's like a well-made machine, because it is not that.
It's like a lot of games, like you said, don't run great on it. It's pretty behind. It's like I said, it's almost like it's trying to do too many things. And like even some of the stuff you're talking about, like with battery life on controllers, like, okay, so I'm playing a lot of my Switch games and pretty much exclusively now. I stopped playing handheld mode. I can't remember when. There was at some point I was just like, I'm just going to dock this thing probably permanently, because I just enjoy playing with the Pro Controller more than anything. But there are times where I don't play my Switch for a while because nothing really good comes out on it. And even if it does, it's probably out on some other system that I want to play it on. Like Katana Zero came out on PC, and that's what I played Katana Zero on. Right. And that game is awesome, but I don't really need to play it on the Switch. There's some like little indie games that I think are fine on the Switch, but they're usually like 2D ones, so they're not going to really push the boundaries, if you will, of the console, and those are probably okay.
But even then I hear stories of like some of those indie games not running. Dead Cells doesn't run very well on the Switch.
Bloodstained doesn't run that well, and Bloodstained has a lot of problems, like even on other consoles, but still, like the fact that it's such a bad running game on the Switch.
That was the example that I meant to make. Is that I think that you could get Bloodstained running on the PS3 and the Xbox 360 just fine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And the fact that the Switch can't handle it is like, I mean, part of that I'm sure has to do with like them rushing to port it to the Switch, but part of that has, like, I'm sure a lot of that is on the Switch itself.
Yeah. And but like you were talking about battery life and controllers, like I have so many problems sometimes, like if I don't play the Switch for a while, just trying to turn the fucking thing on. Because like it's on, like it has power. I can see lights coming off of it, but like sometimes like I have to like, all right, use the thing to turn my Pro Controller to turn the Switch on. Doesn't work. I guess it didn't charge the Pro Controller even though everything's plugged in. Okay, I guess I gotta take the Joy-Cons out of the console and actually try to use those. Okay, that's kinda working. Now I have to get this to charge. Okay, for some reason it won't charge this. It's complicated as hell. The storefront's really bad too. I don't really like the storefront at all. It's very like, I don't know. It's something.
Well, and with me going back and forth between docked and handheld mode recently, the fact that the Switch for some reason forgets that the Joy-Cons you were using in docked mode are now being attached to the Switch, and you have to like calibrate them again and say like, these are the ones I'm using. And it's like, why can't, like, I can understand if I had added another set of Joy-Cons to the mix, but I haven't. Like, these are the ones, like, I was using them right now, and then I just reattached them to the Switch, and the Switch is like, what are these? Yeah. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so weird. I don't know. Like, I have a lot of problems with it too. It's definitely not my favorite console. In fact, I really go out of my way not to play it unless there's something that's only out on the Switch, which we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah,
I deeply regret my purchase.
Yeah, I bought it on kind of a whim. This is honestly the first Nintendo console I've owned since the N64. I didn't like the GameCube very much. I'm sorry, Super Step. I just never thought it was that great. The game lineup was like Resident Evil, which I'm a chicken shit. I'm not going to play that game. So why would I buy it? Like, that was the selling point to me because like that was the best looking game on it. And then like they had, the Mario Sunshine, they had like a Zelda, and they had typical Nintendo stuff. And I was like, I don't care about these games. And I was at the age where I was kind of an edgelord. So if you weren't putting out like cool, bloody, cuss at me stuff, I wasn't really into it. So I played mainly PlayStation 2 and like OG Xbox, I guess. And when the Wii came out, I was the staunchest Wii hater ever. I was like, this thing is the dumbest shit. Like, and people were like, but oh man, Wii Sports is so much fun. And I'm like, yeah, Wii Sports is fine. It's okay. But what else are they going to do with this? Like, are you going to sit here on your couch and swing around this fucking controller and look like an idiot the entire, like, it's too much work. I didn't like it. And then Wii U, I didn't even know came out for the longest time. But yeah, man.
I bought the Wii U and the Switch out of depression.
Yeah.
And I regretted both of those purchases.
I can't remember why I bought a Switch. I think I went to Toys R Us when it was still in business, and it was just like, I seen one, I was like, you know what? Why not? I'm here.
There was an element of that too. Yeah. I saw it, and it was the only one left. Yeah. And it was still in that little bit of time where it was a little bit hard to find. Right. And I was like, ooh, but it's right here. Yeah. And I'd already, like, and also I had, well, not that it matters because I'd already beaten it on the Wii U, but I have a collector's edition of Breath of the Wild that I bought on launch day just because I found one.
Yeah.
I was actually on my road trip towards San Francisco when it came out, and I just happened to go to a Target just to see if I could find a Switch. Right. Didn't find a Switch, but I did find a collector's edition of that game, and I bought it. I was like, well, I've already got a game for the Switch.
That doesn't help.
There's one right here.
Yeah.
And I'm therapy shopping, so why the hell not?
And like they're behind in like their mentality. Like all the modern consoles, like voice chat's not a thing. You can't do voice chat on a Switch without jumping through a million hoops. And I know that's not
still friend codes.
Yeah, still friend codes. Like, why? Like, I know I get it, the kids, but like, really? Like, come on, man. Like, it's
and like I'm not one of those who's like, oh, I can't believe they started charging for online. It's like, no, I kind of understand why you need to charge for online, but then I keep hearing stories about how bad the online is.
There's nothing,
and it's like, well, then don't charge for don't charge us for a terrible service.
There's nothing to play on the Switches online that I can even think of except for Smash and like Splatoon, and that's it.
Well, yeah, but there's people who will fight you for even saying that there's nothing besides those, because that's like everything.
And Tetris 99, that's a good one. That was like the selling point of the online, wasn't it? When that, well, no, it wasn't.
A little bit, yeah.
A little. It was a later selling point. That was to try to get people into it. And then the NES stuff, which I guess maybe that has online stuff. I think it does. I think certain games have online components with the NES stuff.
They've done some fun, like, tweaks to those games and additions and stuff like that, like interesting save files that you can play off of and neat things like that. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Just nothing blowing my mind or anything about it. Yeah. But like, that's where you go to play Nintendo games. So what are you gonna do?
And I know I'm going to get a lot of it in the comments. Again, if you love the system, bully for you. Yeah. Like, I'm not telling you that your opinion is invalid. I'm just saying.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely not.
From my perspective, it's got a lot of problems, and I see more and more people seemingly puzzled when games don't work well on it. Like I've seen from people who know, like, that seem really confused. Like, why doesn't Wolfenstein Youngblood run well on the Switch? And it's like, because the Switch can barely run like last generation games and this is very much not a last generation game. Like, I don't know why there's confusion there. Why do you want Witcher 3 on this thing?
Yeah, I think they're more confused as to why people are trying to put stuff out on the Switch if they know it's going to run like that. And it's because they know it's going to sell. Like, people are going to buy it because it's on the Switch and it's pawned as that portable thing that you can play on an airplane or whatever. And like, that aspect of it is cool. The fact that you can take it out and play it portably. But like you said, the battery life's not very good. It reminds me, and you mentioned the Game Gear earlier, it really does remind me kind of a Game Gear. Like, it really does. Like, but it's Nintendo, so it gets kind of a pass, I guess. Yeah. And like, there's touchscreen functionality and it's bad. That touchscreen's not great. I remember, at least every time I've ever tried to use it, it's not been good. But with all that being said, Julian, Fire Emblem was real good.
It's real
fucking good. And so, all right, I gotta ask, how far along are you in your playthrough of Fire Emblem?
Not as far as I would like.
Okay.
I am about 10 hours in.
Okay.
But that doesn't really mean much because one person's 10 hours in this game could be somebody else's 20 because I have gotten really into all of the stuff.
Yes.
So like, I am manually teaching my students every session.
Absolutely.
I'm trying my best to talk to everybody and really explore the monastery in between battles. Yep. So I'm definitely spending a lot of time meandering. One thing I will say though, I understand now what you were telling me about how you bounce off of the Persona games.
Yes.
Because I already feel overwhelmed and feel like I'm playing it wrong because I don't feel like I have time enough to do everything.
Okay.
I'm not to the point where I'm like freaking out over it.
Yeah.
But I am at the point where I'm like, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that, to waste that action on that thing. And now, oh no, I didn't actually get this quest done. And, or like there was supposed to be I think a quest, like a side quest battle I was supposed to do. Yeah. But I ran out of, stuff for that. And then, I don't know, there's just like a lot going on. And
okay.
Trying to balance that and also remember to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And stuff has fallen by the wayside already because I'm forgetting to try to recruit people.
Okay.
Because I think I might be at the point where I can start recruiting people. Right. So yeah.
My words of advice from somebody who has played this game for 94 hours.
Son of a bitch.
Yes.
It's been out for a week.
Yeah. Well, Julian,
week and a half.
Some of us just sit around their house and play Fire Emblem all day. And some of us is me. So words of advice. First of all, my first playthrough, I played it completely wrong.
First playthrough.
Yes, I'm on the second one. So my first one, I picked the Golden Deer. I know you picked the Black Eagles.
I did.
So, and that's a good choice.
And I'm glad because I honestly thought you were going to pick Black Eagles also because you and I tend to think a lot alike. And for me, it was a combination of Edelgard being just a badass warrior princess, and then also Bernadetta being my spirit animal.
She's amazing. She's the funnest character in the game, I think. By leaps and bounds.
I do wish that you got, I really am surprised they didn't have you do, at least a full-on mission with each of the houses before you got to choose.
Right.
Because that's what they did in Fire Emblem Fates.
I remember that.
You actually got time with both sides of the families.
And then you made your choice. And then there was even a thing in Fire Emblem, I'm not sure if it was Fates or the other one. I think it was Fates. But there was a DLC thing where it combined the two. And I remember that was my favorite playthrough of the game because it was actually really hard, but you got all the houses. And so you had everybody. So this one, all right, I'm going to tell you flat out, recruiting people, don't worry too much about it. Okay. It's really, 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 really hard in the time frame you're given to recruit everybody. You're not going to be able to do it. Don't even, try to recruit who you can and who seems interesting. Go for the stats you're going for, at least on your first playthrough, and then just go from there. And in fact, it's actually going to add to the game later. I won't spoil it or anything, but you playing it like that, because I played through it to a certain point and went, I am fucking this up, because of Persona style stuff was coming up, and I was
Right.
like, I am fucking everything up here, and this is not great. And then later on, I was like, I'm kind of glad I played it like this. It's adding to it a little bit, because you really get invested in the people that you do have, and the game is lighthearted in the beginning for a reason. And
Right.
I won't go into it any more than that. And I picked the Golden Deer, like I said, for my first playthrough, because I had a little insider information, not too much. It wasn't like too spoilery, but I heard it was like, hey, a lot of people are picking the Black Eagles. They might not be the best house to start with, though. And I went, yeah.
See, and that's interesting, because I had heard, excuse me, I had heard that everybody was picking Blue Lions.
Yes.
And I was like, well, and here's the thing, is that I didn't really go based on that so much as like my play style.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, it's weird too, because when you see the description of the Black Eagles, it says that they use like axes and magic. And I was like, well, that's not really my normal thing. Like, honestly, in Fire Emblem, I like ranged characters. Yes. So I almost went with Golden Deer, but ranged characters are also the squishiest characters. And I was like, it makes more sense to me to pick these guys. And yeah. But there's also a little bit of dialogue with the Golden Deer where it makes you think that they're also like easy mode.
They're actually the intermediate ones. They're middle of the road, and the Blue Lions are actually probably the best first playthrough you can get.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
So, well, the only reason is, every mission with the Blue Lions, one of the characters is usually directly related to what you're going into. So, like, I'm guessing, I haven't played the Blue Lions, so I don't know for sure. But I'm guessing there is little extra bits and like kind of weighty things in the storyline, if that makes any sense.
No, actually that makes a lot of sense, because you are able to ask like one student to tag along with you. And I had missed out on the opportunity to bring one of the ones that was involved in a mission. Yeah. But I did the one where you fight the first like boss creature. Okay. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I went ahead and brought the character who was involved in that. Yes. And you get a little bit of extra dialogue. Okay. It's not a ton, but it's still, I was like, yeah, I want to be sure that you're here.
And it seems like every one of those characters that's like that is the Blue Lions guys. Right. So and even like all of their class stuff actually goes right into the master classes. The other houses, especially the Black Eagles, you have to really work to get towards that stuff. But you do have Dorothea, and Dorothea is fucking busted. So
yeah, she is. Holy crap.
Dude, yeah.
Between her and I'm bringing up Bernadetta to become a sniper.
Oh yeah.
And it's like between the two of them, they are just wrecking house.
Absolutely.
Oh, and also Edelgard, because she's now, I think it's, I forget what her class is right now.
Heavy armor axe class?
No, I didn't do her with the heavy armor. I did her as the more damage dealer one.
Gotcha.
So she's a bit of a glass cannon, but it don't matter if she kills everyone in one hit. Right. Like, it doesn't matter if she because that counterattack that would decimate her never comes. Yeah. So it's not a problem.
Yep. So like I said, your first playthrough, don't worry too much about screwing it up. Just kind of like, and that's if you want to do a second playthrough. If you don't, I totally get it. I'm putting this out there into the void of everyone playing. Because
I will say, sorry to cut you off,
you're good.
but we've been talking a lot about like inflated game time. Yeah. And I was shocked when I heard that this game is like a 70, 80 hour experience the first time. Yeah. Because I average about 40 hours on a Fire Emblem.
I was just gonna say, it's not. I finished my first playthrough in about 45 hours. Maybe.
Okay. I've been hearing much longer.
Yeah, the second one is the one I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like grind and kind of do all this stuff. And New Game Plus actually gives you the ability to carry a lot of your own stuff over by paying renown or whatever that you get from missions to like, so it makes it way easier to recruit things. And later on, you'll start noticing like, hey man, my students are like way better than I am at all of this shit. And that'll come into play later because your students will start teaching you things. So like kind of keep that in mind. Like, these are not spoilery things, but like, they're kind of advice for later in the game for anybody out there listening.
I do gotta say that, like, just like thematically, it is very weird to me.
Yes.
That the premise is, I am a young professor at this school who's around the same age, but still older than the students that I'm teaching, but also the students are mad hitting on me left and right. And it's like, this is exactly what you're told not to do when you're a professor. You could actually go to jail in our world for doing the things that you are like, encouraged to do.
Hey man,
in this game.
It's a fantasy world.
It is. I mean, I know, I understood. I just realized, I don't think there's a spoiler, but like, it doesn't go full dating sim like previous Fire Emblems.
Yeah, no, there's no like, hey, you're married to this character now and you take them into battle and like, there's none of that. That doesn't occur until the very end. And,
what my biggest complaint about this game is that, cause I love the fact that when the camera zooms into the encounters, you see other soldiers on the battlefield. It makes the battles feel a lot more epic.
Right.
But the thing that I'm really missing was you still get support, bonuses for putting characters next to each other on the battlefield, but they got rid of that animation where you see both of those characters on the field. Cause like you in Awakening and Fates, like it feels so good when like, you get that counterattack, but your partner got in and deflected it for you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and sometimes saving that character's ass. And it's like, oh, that's so
later
cool,
on,
and it's not here.
There is something like that, actually. I can't remember what it's called, but you can pair up people. They won't be like in the battle, but they like level up with that character, and they are actually shown like leading the battalion that's with you. And sometimes they'll like be in the background fighting and doing all this other stuff. And like if you hit a battalion attack, they'll be at the front of like a charge or whatever. And it is pretty cool. So like it is kind of,
but that doesn't have as much like gameplay element to it.
It's not quite
that was the thing that it really. I mean, I do like having the characters get to know each other and the support conversations that builds a lot of the world. But in those other games, it also had a gameplay element to it where it's like, now that these characters are so buddy, like they are a unit and they will protect each other at all costs, you know? And
I do miss a lot of things from the other Fire Emblem games. I even kind of liked the dumb as much. I know it's really stupid and it's practically a joke at this point, but the time travel babies thing.
Oh, the time travel babies were the coolest thing, man.
Funny. It's so over the top and ridiculous that I loved it. And I miss it in this one. But I understand why it's not there. And
I do too.
And I can't judge them too much for it. Also, let's see. So like my first playthrough, I married Dorothea and I played as a girl. There are gay options, which is kind of cool. The gay option for if you're a guy is the sleepy guy. I can't remember his name.
Lindhart.
Yeah, Lindhart.
Yeah.
He's the other one if you're a guy.
Yeah, I was already starting to get inklings.
Yes.
From him on that. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty cool. And like I said, I really like the game. Like I said, I screwed up the fucking first playthrough so bad, and I don't feel bad about it. Like I got through the game, I was like, man, I'm really ready for this new game plus. I'm gonna not screw it up this time. And I really am glad I experienced the game the way I did because it added a lot of weight to what was happening. The game really, like, it takes a turn, and the last thing I want to say about it is the soundtrack of this game is really fucking good, and I really like it a lot. I don't like all the songs. Like, I would say the song while you're walking around the monastery is borderline obnoxious, but and maybe it's just because you hear it so much. But Julian, I don't know if you've gotten to this fight yet. Have you gotten to the battle at Gronder Field?
That does not sound familiar.
Okay, it's where, like, I think they talk about it. There's, like, it's where all three of the houses face off against each other while you're still in school.
Okay, no, yeah.
I was gonna say, I know they, like, kind of mention it, but, like, they haven't done it yet. Okay. Since you haven't got there, I want you to pay attention to that song. Just kind of, like, hear the backbeat of it and get it in your head a little bit. And it's a good song. It's called, I think it's a Battle in Blue Skies or something like that. It's really cool. But later on, it's, just keep it in your head for later on. I can't even spoil it. And there's like 2 or 3 tracks from battles that are just like, oh my God, this is so good. Especially like the last battle, at least on Claude's playthrough. I don't know about on Edelgard for reasons. Cause I haven't got there yet. Cause that's my second playthrough is the Edelgard one. Man, the last battle song with Claude was fucking great. It's called God Shattering Star. It's fucking incredible. And, man, okay, that's all I'm gonna say. It's great. Get to that point and listen to that song, dude. It's awesome. And Fire Emblem, I really love it. Like I said, I'm 90 something hours into it and I'm still playing it because I'm gonna beat it a second time and I'm probably gonna do another thing that I can't really talk about because it'll spoil it. But I'm gonna do that and it's gonna be great. I'm loving it.
Yeah. Play Fire Emblem 3 Houses. It's great. I'm just sorry that you have to play it on the Nintendo Switch.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, I think that's probably it for Consumption Junction. The show is also going a little long. But Justin, before we get into the final segment, again, we've got bills to pay.
Indeed.
Lots of bills. Forgot to mention this during the previous section, but I've got one last, item that, we need to let you, wonderful people know about. Because as you know, government abductions are on the rise. Not only by the government, but by aliens. These are known facts. You can find this. You can Google it. You'll find it. But to that end, we have developed a wonderful device, that will help your friends and your loved ones find you, when and if you are abducted. It is called the Tush Tracker.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a, spherical, silver suppository. Goes into your rectum.
Okay.
Because as you know, government agencies do not, inspect the anus, because they find it gross.
Right.
And aliens actually think that the anus is the pee hole.
Oh.
So they don't look there either. When you hear people getting anal probes, that's actually a misnomer. It's actually going in the pee hole.
Oh.
That's facts. Everybody knows this. It's all there. You'll find it on Google.
Okay.
But the Tush Tracker has a GPS that will, track your location, with a handy app. It also works, in orbit. So if you are abducted by aliens, it will track you as long as they are still in Earth's orbit. Mm-hmm. Past that, well, you're probably fucked.
Oh.
As an added bonus, it is also a wonderful device for anal play if you were into that type of thing. But of course, that is only anal play between consensual men and women because otherwise it is sodomy. And we do not condone that, on the Freedom Cast.
Well, Julian, you know the problems I've been having with sodomy.
I do know the problems you've been having with sodomy.
Yeah.
We will talk about that off camera.
Right.
But you can get your Tush Tracker for the low price of $299.99, with a handy supply of wipes for when you remove it from the anus, which you should only do in very rare circumstances when you have to poop, because otherwise you want to have it on your body at all times, just in case you are abducted by the government or aliens.
Right.
Yes. So
indeed.
Now that we've paid those bills.
Yeah, I'm glad we did.
Now that we've paid those bills, Justin, I think it's time to lower the cage and step into the ring for a video game cage match.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest spectacle on earth. This will be one hellacious ride tonight. This is a 15-foot high steel cage, ladies and gentlemen. Who will triumph? Who will prevail? And who will realize their dream?
And this one comes to us from Xrian, and this is gonna be a fight. We have Halo 2 versus Half-Life 2. Yes, folks, it is the battle of the faithless warrior versus the voiceless scientist. In a battle for the ages. Yeah, that's all the preamble.
Yeah.
What do you have for this one, Justin? I honestly have no idea where you're going to fall on this.
Okay, so I have a weird story of why I'm going to vote for what I'm voting for.
I would expect no less.
I usually do. So and I want to put it out there that I don't encourage what I'm going to talk about at all. And we at Nerds Without Pants do not encourage this at all. So I played Halo 2 before it came out. A friend of mine was a hacker man and got it off of some sort of leak on the internet. And
was he Hacker Man from Kung Fury?
Yes, is
awesome.
That exact guy. And
awesome.
He got it off of some sort of leak on the internet, and he had ways of playing it. And you can read into that however you want. So I played this early weird beta version of Halo 2, and I beat it on Legendary with this guy because he was super into Halo, and I was like his friend that was always around. And the thing about this build of the game, and I really wish I could play Halo 2 in this exact build because it was hilarious, was all the enemies were in French language. So, like, everything was in English except for the Covenant guys. So when you ran up on a guy and, like, scared the little dudes that run away from you, or, like, you threw a grenade at them, they'd all yell, "Sacre bleu!" and run away. And it was the best thing ever. And I wish I could play Halo 2 again in that state. And that's why I have to vote for Halo 2, just because that is such a fond memory. And also playing it online against the guy, oh, and for the record, my friend did later buy the actual game because he didn't like the French thing. I thought it was hilarious. But there was a guy I played against online who played Vengabus over the headset, and so whenever he got close to you, all you heard was the Vengabus music, and he was really good, so he killed us all the time. And it was a great gaming memory that I have. So my vote goes for Halo 2 for those weird reasons.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of playing Worms Armageddon with my friends in Colorado, because we all have our we've been playing this for years,
right.
So we all have our teams saved on the cart. And my friend Shanna, she has the Sailor Scouts, and they all have French as the language. So, I'm just hearing like "Victoire,"
yes.
like, from Worms when you're
it's
describing that.
It's exactly like
so.
that, except big brute Covenant guys saying it. It's awesome.
Well, Justin, I was going to try to do like the heel turn here and do something shocking that people wouldn't expect.
Right.
Just to do it. Just for the lulz, as the kids say. I can't do it. I don't like Half-Life 2 all that much.
It happens, man.
And as I've said before, I think it's one of the most overrated games, like, just period. I think it probably, like, if I had played it when it was new, I would probably have, like, a lot of those, like, warm and fuzzy feelings that other people do, as far as, like, how amazing the physics were and stuff like that. But you play it a few years later, like I did, and no, like, I think the story is bad. I can't stand silent protagonists, especially when they're supposed to be intelligent protagonists who would probably ask a bunch of questions about things that nobody seems to know about.
Right.
Like, I would still like to know what the Combine are, because apparently that is not explained in Half-Life 1. They just show up in Half-Life 2, and it's like, all right, I guess they're the enemy, so we'll go shoot them.
Yeah.
And I was gonna vote for it because of the gravity gun, and that's pretty awesome.
It is awesome.
But no. Fuck it.
Can't do it.
Halo 2.
Gotta go with your heart.
I'm not even a Halo fan.
Yeah. I'm not like the biggest Halo fan either. Like, I like the game, and like I said, I've beaten it, but like, it's not like my favorite game of all time, so.
Yeah, I think the character designs in the Halo series are boring.
Yeah.
And uninspired.
I agree.
And I'm not, like, I've never really understood people who really get into the lore of Halo. It's cool if you do. I think a lot of it is like people who got into the novelizations and stuff, which, hey, I've read a lot of video game novels, so no shade there,
might be
but the
some
stuff that
big stuff in that we don't know about, so yeah.
Yeah, but the stuff that I have experienced in the games themselves has been, it's fine.
It's like sci-fi action movie, basically.
Yeah. But, if you're pitting these two, like, legendary sequels against each other, I'm going Halo 2 every time, because, like, I could not give less of a fuck about Half-Life 2, other than Alex. Like, that's the only reason that I want Half-Life 3, is just to see the rest of her story. But, like, just fuck Gordon Freeman, man.
I was gonna say, I mean, at least Halo 3 came out Half-Life 3, I don't think that's ever coming out. I'll be shocked. So
that has Half-Life 2 winning as far as the Nerds Without Pants are concerned. Oh, sorry. Yes, Halo 2. It's in my head now because I'm so angry about it. Yes. But as always, Justin, our listeners are, not only the bookers of the matches, but they are also the referees.
Indeed.
And so we will go over to pixelbit.com now, and first up is Xrian, who also booked this match, as I said, who says, all right, folks, let's get this out of the way. Half-Life 2 is no match for Halo 2. Halo 2 is responsible for what Xbox Live and possibly Xbox as a whole is today. On top of that, Freeman is a worse protagonist than my grandma. I'm telling you, my grandma can put more character into making me a taco than Freeman did in both Half-Lives combined. Does that equal one life? Dog isn't even a dog, it's a damn robot. I remember a review saying that if you didn't care about Alex by the time the game was over, then you have no soul. Guess what? I didn't give half of one shit about her. Apparently Valve didn't either because they didn't even care enough to follow Bungie's lead and finish the fight.
Yeah.
Those are some strong words, Xrian. And I agree with you with everything except for Alex, who I think is actually a really cool character. But it's also not fair of her to do all of the heavy lifting in that game.
Very true.
Just open your mouth, Gordon. You're a scientist. You should be able to say smart things about stuff.
You would think, but apparently it's just not in his. Maybe he's just shy, you know?
Maybe. Yeah. That's also going back to Consumption Junction. It's weird to me that your character has a voice, like has voiced lines in battle, and can talk, but then in conversations is silent.
Conversations, yeah. Just give the guy a voice. It is weird.
Let's see. Next up, Justin, why don't you take Jamie Alston?
We're skipping San Andreas?
San Andreas did... Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. He did do one, didn't he? It's at the top. Okay. Yeah, why don't you grab San Andreas?
Alright, San Andreas says, gonna go with Halo 2. I guess only because I played Halo 2 on 360, and it was okay. I never actually played Halo 2, and in fact, never had an Xbox 360. Sorry.
To clarify, he said he played Halo 3.
Oh, Halo 3. Okay, got it. Sorry, I misread.
But that's fine. That's valid. San Andreas, noted Sony shill. No, I'm just kidding. He just really loves his PlayStation.
It's understandable.
I do too. Next up is Jamie Alston, who says, I'll go ahead and side with the underdog in this fight. I'm going with Half-Life 2. Sure, Halo 2's effect on Xbox Live can't be denied, and I enjoyed the single-player campaign well enough, but I couldn't follow Halo 2's story all that much, especially when it kept switching back and forth between Master Chief and the Arbiter. It just felt unnecessarily convoluted, and like it was trying to be more important than it actually was. Half-Life 2 has its faults for sure, but I felt like I could follow what was going on much better. And I don't mind a protagonist that doesn't talk. Nobody complains about the Doom guy. That's because the Doom guy has more personality in one gauntleted finger than Gordon Freeman has in his whole scrawny body. Also, more power to you for following what was going on in Half-Life 2, Jamie, because I sure couldn't.
Hey.
What was the 7-hour war? Or was it 7-minute war? Whatever the hell that thing was.
I don't know, I didn't play that one, so.
I have to admit that I'm surprised that Half-Life 2 is the underdog in this. I thought it would go the other way for sure.
Considering our listeners listen to us, or listen to you at least, talk so much about Half-Life, I feel like you may have convinced some people at this point. So, or at least you have, them thinking that it's the underdog, and that's part of the fight, Julian. That's part of the fight.
Maybe that's part of the fight. I feel that I am like. I feel that I have always been the crazy person screaming into the void as far as my criticisms of Half-Life 2.
Right.
But why don't you take Superstep, Justin?
All right. Superstep says, my memory of Half-Life 2 is watching my friend play it on Xbox years after it came out and asking if I could try some magnet puzzle he was frustrated with. My memory of Halo 2 is actually being competent at an FPS for once and hanging out with some new friends in high school playing it in glorious couch multiplayer. I'll let you figure out which one I'd vote for. I'm guessing Halo 2?
Really? I read that and I got Fez.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm way off. No, yeah, you're right. You're right. Right, Halo 2. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't know where I got Fez from.
Oh, well. It happens.
Yeah. It does. It does happen.
You know, the old saying, sometimes Fez. I don't know. That's
Moving on. Next we have Bookie giving us the straight dope on the odds. He says, not a runaway at all. By my calculation, based on nationwide in-home taste tests, people prefer the crisp, clean taste of Half-Life 2 over Halo 2, but just 20% more of the time. I was more of a Half-Life fan myself, so throw me in there, why not? Although I always kind of preferred Half-Life 1, which codified so much of the modern narrative shooter. Halo 2 might have had a lot to do with Xbox Gold, but I still can't believe people got hooked into paying for not even servers, but just online access. If I had a time machine, I would throw peak Halo 2 nerds into a pit with peak Half-Life 2 nerds. Winner? The spectators, of course.
all right.
Yeah.
Intense stuff there. Oh, and
right.
Also, so I've jumped over to Twitter here, and Superstep has definitely clarified that it is Halo 2. So
it's funny because I had actually seen Superstep's tweet before, or his DM before his comment.
Yeah, I did too.
So I was like, oh, it's weird that he only said one sentence, but then I realized what he was clarifying. We got what you were putting down.
Indeed,
Joe.
indeed.
Last but not least on Pixelbit, Justin, we have Transmet 2033.
Oh, whoops. I totally missed that. Yes. Transmet 2023 says, cage match, Halo 2, co-op and multiplayer that got my brothers and I to sit on the couch and kill each other for hours. I love Half-Life 2, but come on. Also, above that, he says, how dare you say Master Chef is voiceless? I think he meant Master Chief, but I like to pretend that it's Master Chef because that's funny to me.
Yeah. Oh, can you imagine if it was Master Chef, though?
Yes.
Like, if that was the character?
That would be great.
Oh, man.
Halo would have a whole new vibe to it.
Let's see. Moving on to Twitter. All right, we've got a big one from Red Venom at Zakelli7, who actually decided to get into the storytelling aspect of wrestling with this. He says both have an armor with enhanced abilities. Both have iconic weapons. Both have a buggy-looking iconic vehicle. Both have a female sidekick that is more or less their personality. I prefer Alex more. Is this a tie? If I could get only one more game, I'd choose Half-Life. I need to know how it ends. Master Chief's story concluded with Halo 3. And then Microsoft decided to necro-resurrect 343, the poor guy. One game without an ending and the other with too many endings. A perfect tie for me. As the cage rises, the dust of the battle slowly settling, they both keep looking at each other, panting and tired. The chief barely standing, holding his weight on the AR, drops to one knee. Trying to balance on the AR, he reaches for something near him, red and metallic, grasping it. So primitive and yet so effective, he thinks. The crowbar slides with difficulty at the feet of Gordon. Back against the corner, legs spread, and sitting like a doll. With his broken arm, he grabs it, and after multiple tries, and barely gets up. Now standing, looks at Chief, crowbar in hand. Chief, finally sitting, makes a hand gesture towards Gordon's direction. Go, Gordon. His voice coming from the damaged helmet. Finish it. Finish your fight. Gordon nods with his chin, the movement almost imperceptible by someone other than the Chief. As he turns and starts slowly walking away from the ring, a detail catches Chief's eye. Gordon's hand gripping the crowbar. Before barely holding it as if the weight was too great for him, now in a firm grasp after Chief's words. So.
Okay.
so we've got a tie there. Like, that's actually what Red Venom picked, but then basically like a show of friendship at the end and Chief encouraging Gordon to get out there one last time and give us the ending that will not satisfy anybody. Let's be perfectly clear on that. No one will be pleased.
I just kept thinking of Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair in the retirement match. That's all I kept thinking of. I was like, this sounds like that story for some reason. Yep.
Next up is Blaine Fea on Twitter at Blaine Fea. And once again, guys, go follow him. He's new to Twitter.
Indeed.
Once again, that's spelled BLAINEFEIA.
Okay, now for the cage match. He says, this is what Blaine says for the cage match. Now for the cage match. I'll keep this short and sweet. Does Half-Life 2 let you run one of your best friends through with a plasma sword while another friend tags you with a plasma grenade while you all scream at each other through an energy drink-fueled adrenaline rush? What's that? Did you just say no? Then Halo 2 it is. suck at Half-Life 2. If you can, in fact, do that in Half-Life 2, then I take back the suck it thing and will most definitely have to revisit it and may have to rethink some of my opinions about life. Thanks. Thanks for another great show and keep on rocking in the free world, guys.
No, as far as I know, like, I think they did add, like, maybe a multiplayer expansion to Half-Life later, and of course there's Counter-Strike.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's a ton of mods and stuff. But.
Yeah, but in the box Half-Life 2, no, you can't do that stuff to your friends. So, yeah. Thank you, Blaine.
Indeed.
And, last but certainly not least on Twitter, we have, Jeff S. on Twitter at Jestoff, who says, Halo 2. Not because it's just a better game, it is, or belongs to the better series, it does, but because I hate Gordon Freeman. I hate his design, his stupid thin crowbar, and his aversion to the spoken word. Just talk to Alex, Gordon. On top of that, his suit isn't nearly as cool as Master Chief's in Halo 2, so yeah, I respect what Half-Life 2 has done for video gaming, but its time is over, and I think it's fitting that Master Chief should finish the fight as the victor. I gotta say, I am very happy and here for all of the people like speaking out against the silent protagonist.
Man, yeah, there's a lot of not love for the silent protagonist today. So yeah, and well justified. So
well justified. So that is a resounding victory for Halo 2. And honestly, what I think happened, this wasn't even so much a fight, Justin. Yeah. Basically, in this situation, Half-Life 2 was, Lance Strong, and Halo 2 was The Rock. And basically, Halo 2 just cut an eviscerating promo that just made Half-Life 2 give up and walk away.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, not even like as much as a forearm blow was struck, because there was no need. Like basically the mic skills of Master Chief just so surpassed, like, Half-Life or Gordon Freeman's lack of a complete personality, complete lack of a personality, that he just, took his ball and went home.
Yeah.
So.
But one thing to clarify for myself, when you say Lance Strong, do you mean Lance Storm?
I did mean Lance Storm.
I had to clarify.
Sorry. Did I say, okay. I was getting confused with, wait, who is that?
Strong. I'm trying to think of anybody named.
No, I don't know where I got Lance Strong from, because for a second I thought I was confusing him with Lance Hoyt, but that's way off, because there's no way you could confuse Lance Storm and Lance Hoyt.
Well, to be close,
very different wrestlers.
To be close, it's an S word that has about the same number of letters, so I get it.
Yeah, this is true. All right, so now that the dust has settled on that one, it is time to announce our next match. We're going to circle back around to Superstep on Twitter at JoeMikeStep. He submitted a bunch of these a while back. Again, if you have not submitted any bookings yet, let them fly, because we just kind of pick and choose them willy-nilly style.
Or if we randomly missed yours, let us know.
Yes, please. Because that totally could have happened. Yes. But seeing that EVO has just recently occurred, we should have an actual pair of fighting games.
Okay.
Step into the ring. And Joe has a wonderful, pairing here. He says Clay Fighter 3D versus Killer Instinct Gold.
Oh, God.
So I'm assuming that he means Clay Fighter 64 1/3.
I think so.
For the N64.
Yeah.
So Clay Fighter 64 1/3 versus Killer Instinct Gold. Now keep in mind that is base Clay Fighter 64 1/3. Not the Sculptor's Cut, which is one of the most expensive N64 games ever produced. There was a Blockbuster exclusive, because not everybody had access to that. Yeah. We're just doing vanilla Clay Fighter 64 1/3 versus Killer Instinct Gold next time in the cage match.
Wow. Wow.
So definitely let us know who you see winning in that situation. Again, we will want those, as well as I want to know your video game nemesis.
Nemesi.
I don't know. On the next episode, we will want those by 8:30 Central Time on August 21st. But before we wrap things up, Justin, what is going on at the bottom of the page?
That's a good question. Julian, I've gotten the itch again.
I don't think we have a product for
Oh, not that itch. Not that itch.
Okay.
Maybe, but we'll talk after the show about that. No, I want to write scenes again. I need to write scenes again.
Were you inspired by reading that excerpt from Time Knife?
A little bit, but I don't know why. Just I'm into it again, and I need to do it. So what I did this time is I found a list going over the worst movie endings of all time, and I'm going to rewrite all the endings. So go listen to that, because it will probably already be out by the time you listen to this.
Yes, that's usually how that works.
Indeed. And yep, that's it. That's it.
Okay. Fair enough. Yep. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks as always to everybody for submitting for Stage Select and Cage Match. We love you guys for it. Hopefully you enjoyed all of our fine products and find good uses for all of them. Also, don't go to nwpcast.com. It doesn't exist. I feel compelled to give that disclaimer just in case.
We should have made it like nwp.party or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, that will do it, for this episode. As always, you can find us on Twitter. Justin.
I am at Tyrone_Swift, or you can tweet my other podcast, Clickbait Update, at Clickbait Update.
Yes. You can find Patrick at SomeBoss. You can find me at Julian_Titus, and you can find the show at NWPcast. If you enjoy the show, consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. It would help us a lot. And maybe tell your friends. That also helps even more.
Indeed.
But that is going to do it for this edition of Nerds Without Pants. So for myself and Justin, thanks for listening. And keep it pantsless, Internet. Goodbye. You can look that up.
Yep.
Just Google. You will find it.
You know the problems I've been having with procreation, Julian. I mean,
yes. Well, that's a completely separate thing. That's more about you being a complete shut-in and having anime statues.
Okay.
I'm talking about actual men that have a chance of getting laid.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't even. I'm gonna cut this.
That was too good.
I'm sorry. That was too hard.
No, that was great. No. I loved that.
That's going in the outtakes.
That was too good. I just keep doing the Syphil and Ollie thing. I don't know if anybody else ever watched that show, but I keep going, because they used to have a home shopping network on that thing, and every time, it would be something real dumb. They'd be like, we're selling badger traps or something. He's like, the problems I've been having with badgers. You have some serious ass badger problems. You just go off about it.
It's good. Keep it up. Okay. I was so bummed about Sims 4 because it's on Game Pass now, but I bought that, and how literally I get in and they had the character, and so I was like, oh wow, you can click on the stomach and do all this stuff. That stuff is really neat. But then all of a sudden that UI went away, and I could not figure out how to bring it back. And then I finally learned how to bring it back, but I still couldn't figure out how to alter the face. Cause I was going to I don't use it in some games, but I was going to make me and then try to simulate my sad life and see just how sad it can get.
Yeah, that's what I do all the time.
Yeah, because somehow my actual existence isn't sad enough. I need to like
right. Yeah, that's exactly what I and then I'll like make it even worse. Most of the time, I'm like, let's see what would happen if I just made it even worse.
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's fun to me.
That's what I did with Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, I'm going to have my character drive as much as possible. He's not going to walk, and he's just going to eat fast food for every meal. And I want to see how quickly this goes off the rails. It didn't take long.
Yeah, right. No, it doesn't take long in that game, but yeah.